Live from Minute Maid Park in Houston, Texas, Comcast Sportsnet brings you Houston Astros baseball. Tonight, it's Game 3 of this weekend series. The Seattle Mariners are a hot team, and they're going for a sweep over the Houston Astros. Good afternoon, everybody. Bill Brown and Alan Ashby. A very unusual game last night as the Astros lost it despite Eric Bedard leaving after 6 1/3 no-hit innings. And there were pass balls. There were some problems along the way. Now to regroup against a possible Cy Young Award winner for the second time. That's what Felix Hernandez is on a path to do perhaps this year.
Felix Hernandez over the last 3 years has been first, second, and fourth in the Cy Young voting in the American League. So obviously he lives up to the King moniker. He is some kind of special. Great fastball, changeup that will strike out hitters left and right, breaking balls. Felix Hernandez can do it all. And obviously he can feel the position a little bit as well. When you're going up against Felix Hernandez, you're going up against one of the game's best.
Jordan Lyles is his mound opponent tonight. Jordan pitched a good game in St. Louis before the break, did not get the win, even though he left with a lead in that one. So it's been a season in which in the first 3 starts he had an 8.36 ERA. Then the next 7, a 1.61. He really was rolling at that point. Now the last 4, he's gone 0-2 with a 6.14. But nonetheless, that last start, very competitive for Jordan Lyles. And he will be facing Felix Hernandez and a hot-hitting Seattle team today. So he's going to need his best stuff, Ash.
Bronny, a lot of that damage against Lyles, when you see in the last 4 starts, came in the start at Wrigley Field against the Cubs. Just a rough one. But generally speaking, he's been very good. And you see him blowing away these Mariners hitters in Seattle. He did so, didn't get anything to show for it in terms of a win on that day. But like other games this year, he has been great.
Coming up, the Astros' top minor leaguers, the George Springers, the Jared Cosarts, the Jonathan Singletons, the Delino Shields of the world. What to make of them now? Adam Everett joins Bart Ennis in just a moment.
About ready to wrap up what has been a wild series so far. We're going to take a moment to talk with the former Astro, Adam Everett, who has taken up some coaching duties within the organization. Tell the fans what you're doing now.
Well, I'm what they call an infield instructor. I rove around. I work with our minor league infielders, and then I get to come here every once in a while and get to kind of witness what's going on and kind of get to help out when needed, and basically just here to learn and get some experience.
So you're getting a first-hand look at some of this club's best young prospects. How's it looking so far? Are there any guys that you think, wow, he's close, wow, he's going to be good, that come to mind?
Well, obviously you got Jonathan Villar, the shortstop in Oklahoma City. You've got George Springer there in Oklahoma City. But, you got guys that a lot of people don't talk about or think about or hear about, and Nolan Fontana there in Lancaster. You got a Preston Tucker in Corpus Christi. And, there's pitching up and down the organization. You can name guys like Fulton Nevich, Tropiano, the Wojciechowskis. They're all out there. It's just a matter of them getting some seasoning and, getting ready to get up here to the big leagues, because they're doing a great job of really developing these guys and doing a great job of drafting and getting some good players in here. And it's just a matter of time before this organization gets turned around and going in the right direction.
And for you, you're seeing this organization sort of come full circle, because when you were playing here, it was a veteran team loaded with all-star caliber players, and now they're going through the rebuilding process, which every franchise has to go through eventually.
Absolutely. And you know what? They're doing it the right way. They're building from the ground up. And if you look at all the great teams, you look at the way we came about in the Astros, Bagwell, Biggio, and then you look at how Morgan, I myself came up, Brad Lidge, we all came up through the system. And you look at how the Yankees have done it, the Red Sox, and the Cardinals have done it. It's all those guys that have come up through the system. They're great players that come through the system, and you got to have that. And they're really starting to get a really nice farm system down there to where, in the near future they're going to be able to plug guys up and be able to help out, and then plug in some superstars.
So you're in that coaching role now, and I guess a lot of guys tend to coach like the way they were coached. Coaches influence guys. Do you feel like you're doing a pretty good job as a coach? Is it a different mentality for you?
Yeah, it's definitely different, but I guess you got to have to ask those guys. But, I'm not too far removed from playing. I know how hard the game is. I know what these guys are going through. The biggest thing is mentality, just bringing in a different mentality and saying, hey, look, this is the way you need to play. This is what's going to help you get to the big leagues, not only help you get to the big leagues, but stay there. Our ultimate goal is to produce big leaguers and to produce winning caliber players that are going to help this team win. And we're talking about the Astros win. So, I think I don't know how I'm doing, but that's the type of attitude and the type of aura that I'd like to bring around.
Doesn't seem like that long ago that you were out there patrolling shortstop for the Houston Astros. Do you miss playing? What do you miss most about it?
I do miss playing. I just miss competing. I miss going out there, and I miss facing the number ones like the Felix Hernandez are going to get to face today. But I do miss that. I miss the camaraderie. But more than anything, I just miss going out there and competing and being out there and playing at the highest level.
Well, best of luck to you. Thanks for being with us. One of the all-time great defensive shortstops for this organization, Adam Everett. Best of luck to you, my friend.
Appreciate it.
Coming up next, we got Jordan Lyles going against King Felix today in a battle that should be a good one. Hopefully the Astros will be able to get a win before the Mariners leave town. We'll talk more about it coming up next.
Brought to you by Southwest Airlines. Find our fares online only at southwest.com. It's another warm, humid day outside Minute Maid Park. Inside, it's Game 3 of a 6-game homestand. The Oakland Athletics come to town starting tomorrow night. Now the Mariners are trying to make it 2 consecutive series sweeps. They swept the Angels right before the All-Star break. And here's the lineup for Eric Wedge's visiting ball club, which is 10-5 in July. Brad Miller, the rookie, leads off at shortstop. Another rookie, Nick Franklin, plays second base. And the veteran, the 41-year-old veteran, Raul Ibanez, is in left field, followed by the DH, Kendrys Morales, with Kyle Seager at third base, Justin Smoke at first base, Michael Saunders in right field, Dustin Ackley in center field, Henry Blanco's the catcher.
On the mound for the Astros this afternoon, the 22-year-old Jordan Lyles, 4-3 on the season. He's pitched so much better than that. 4.02 is the ERA. And it's been a while since Jordan's picked up a win. That came back on June 18th against the Brewers. But he has also pitched pretty well in that span, a whole lot better than the one-loss figures might indicate. Defensively for Houston, behind Jordan Lyles, doing the catching this afternoon, it's Carlos Corporon. At first base, Chris Carter. Second base, Jose Altuve, Jake Elmore, and Brett Wallace on the left side. In the outfield, Brandon Barnes in center, flanked by Justin Maxwell in right, and Mark Krause in left.
First pitch from Lyles is foul back. And Brad Miller comes out swinging. There's strike one to a 261 hitting Miller with 2 homers, 12 runs batted in. Those 2 homers came in the big onslaught. The 10-7 Seattle win Friday night, in which Miller hit his first 2 major league homers. He also had a single and a walk in that game. 1 ball, 1 strike. So Miller is looking good, and he's 3 for 8 in this series. Lyles with those 7 shutout innings that Ash talked about earlier this season in Seattle, facing this club for the 2nd time in his career, and it's 2-1 for Jordan. A big start for him, shooting for win number 5 of the season after pitching well against the Cardinals July 10th. He's working with 10 days rest now. And that misses for ball 3, 3-1.
Yeah, there's a location both pitchers would love to get here this afternoon. Don't want it tight there at the bottom of the knees.
That's a leadoff walk to Miller.
Wow, very tight around the knees.
Todd Titchener is the home plate umpire. Lyles takes a little walk, and now he'll face Franklin next.
Last 2 pitches right in this zone. This one maybe a little lower than the previous. As you get pitchers to talking, where do they want to be? They want to be right at the bottom of the knees.
Franklin with a hole on the first base side of the diamond takes, and there's ball 1. Franklin at 265 with 6 homers has 20 runs batted in. And Nick has hit .400 against Astros pitching this year. He was having some fun on the bench before the game. He was wearing a police officer's hat. Franklin looks at a strike, and it's 1-1 for Lyles. Lyles has 24 walks in 80 2/3 innings, so he's really kept the walks under control. Here's what Franklin looked like a few minutes ago.
Yes, sir. Whatever you say, sir.
Wallace even with the bag and off the line at third. Double play depth up the middle, and there's a shot to Wallace, a diving play. He gets up, throws to first, double play. Wallace to Carter on a bullet by Franklin.
Yeah, I don't care. It's hard for me to call this a rookie mistake as a base runner. All guys make the mistake. Nobody should make the mistake. Line drive, potentially caught in the infield. Never move until you're sure it's through as a base runner. And there's the easy double play.
And now Lyles will face Raul Ibanez, the ageless one, who is 1 for 8 with a walk in this series. Ibanez, though, with 24 homers and 56 runs batted in, carries a 263 batting average and an outstanding year. There's ball 1 to Raul.
Not going to get the high strike or the low strike here at the start of play.
That makes it tough.
Yep, it does.
Lyles with movement brings it into the zone, and it's a 1 ball 1 strike count on Ibanez. Raul has 10 homers in his last 21 games. He's tied for 4th in the American League in long balls. Now it's 2-1.
Well, that window's a bit small around home plate right now.
Three balls and a strike. And there's the talk on that bench. Adam Everett alongside Bo Porter, behind Dave Clark there, looking things over from their vantage point.
Tell you what's going to get tough for Todd Tichenor this afternoon is that he's going to have the king Felix Hernandez on the hill for Seattle, and if he's sharp, he's going to be in those same locations throughout the day. Both pitchers are going to be wanting some of those pitches.
Henry Blanco will be King Felix's battery mate today. A swing and a miss, and Lyles gets a strikeout after the line drive double play to put up a 0 on the hot Mariners, who are averaging 6.4 runs per game during their 5-game winning streak. Up, Bo Porter's club, 33-63, coming out with this starting lineup. Jose Altuve at second base, Brett Wallace at third, Jason Castro's the designated hitter, Chris Carter's at first base, the cleanup man, followed by catcher Carlos Corporan, left fielder Mark Krause, right fielder Justin Maxwell, center fielder Brandon Barnes, and shortstop Jake Elmore.
Felix Hernandez on the hill for the Seattle Mariners. Very, very tough. 27 years of age, already a possessor of the Cy Young Award. 10-4 on a fine season, 2.53, that top of the order in terms of the league ERA for starters. He's 2-0 here in the month of July. What can you say about this guy? But you're in for a tough day when you're facing him.
Jose Altuve is the first man up. Altuve back to the leadoff spot for this game. And he takes off the plate, ball one.
Well, that's the perfect pitch. That's where every pitcher wants to be. And if you're not going to get that call, you just get forced back over the plate. Could be good news for Astros hitters.
Could be. See how patient they are. Off-speed pitch dips low, and it's 2-0 to Altuve. You saw the .313 on base average, but when he's the leadoff man, he has a .375 on base percentage this year. He's 2 for 8 in this series with an RBI. That's in the air, and the center fielder Ackley moves over toward right center. One out for King Felix.
Defensively this afternoon for Seattle, behind the plate, Henry Blanco, the veteran. Around the infield, right to left, Justin Smoke, Nick Franklin, Brad Miller, and Kyle Seager. In the outfield, Dustin Ackley in center field. He's flanked by Michael Saunders in right and Raul Ibanez in left.
Brett Wallace is the batter. Wallace hit a home run coming off the bench in Friday night's game. He's 1 for 7 in this series with 3 runs batted in. Brett checking in at .216 for the season with 5 homers. He's driven in 16. He bounces that one to first. Smoke with the play. 2 outs for King Felix, who with 10 wins is on the best pace of his career for this early in the season. And keep in mind, he has pitched so many games in his career without much run support, and still his 108 and 80 lifetime with the best career ERA of any Seattle Mariner, 3.16.
Sometimes when you're facing a guy with the reputation of Felix Hernandez, you feel like as a hitter, you're not going to see a pitch to hit all afternoon long. But sometimes the reality is he makes mistakes as well. And I think Brett Wallace saw one of those mistakes here, but did nothing with it. Up right through the heart of the plate. And you can see the look of disgust from Wallace. Very disappointed for not hitting a very hittable pitch.
Yes, his face told the story. Jason Castro, the batter, takes the breaking ball. It bounces, ball one. Castro is on a 5-game hitting streak, 7 for 21. On the road, King Felix is 6-2 with a 2.43 ERA. So forget about the wide, spacious confines of Safeco Field making him a better pitcher. That has not been the case. This guy's tough to beat anywhere. 1 ball, 1 strike. Castro with 26 doubles has a new Astros club record for a catcher in a season already. With those numbers, sending him to the All-Star game. Inside, and it's 2-1. Nice sized crowd on a Sunday. Houston Methodist Hospital has a big group here today. We'll be hearing more about that later with Bart in the stands. There's a concert on the field before the game. A lot of extra things happening. Check swing appeal goes the way of the Mariners as the call's made by Bill Miller for a 2-2 count.
I understand you were the opening act last night and did a heck of a job.
No, sir. Well, you know, it was a good turnout for our Faith and Family night, and the group 10th Avenue North did a fantastic job. Good time after the game last night. Foul ball, and Justin Maxwell and Carlos Pena, Brandon Barnes all did a very nice job talking about their stories for the Faith and Family crowd after the game last night. There'll be another one coming up September 14th. Tough night for Jason Castro with the 2 pass balls. And he is in the DH role today, which will give him a little bit of a rest from the rigors of catching. And the curveball gets a strikeout for King Felix, his first of the day. Makes it a scoreless first inning.
Game that I've been involved in from little league to the big leagues, where you give up 1 hit, punch out 15 guys, and end up on the losing side of it. But it's crystal clear how we ended up on the losing side of it. I mean, when you walk 7 guys and all 4 of their runs that score are via the walk, there's no defense for it.
And as we pick up the action again, no score here as we move to the second. That's Bo Porter talking about last night's game where a couple of guys combined to 1 hit the Mariners, and yet they lose the ball game. You guys alluded to the pass balls. That was a problem. Walks were obviously a problem. And the game before that, Brandon Barnes hits for the cycle, and the Astros come from a 9-3 deficit to make it a very interesting game but yet when they lose, those are just the kind of the growing pains that this team continues to suffer with, guys.
That was a tough one, and Bedard pitched so well, 6 1/3, and did not give up a hit. Walked 5, struck out 10. Of the 3 runs he allowed, 1 was earned. Kyle Seager, after the leadoff single by Kendrys Morales, is the batter. The Astros stopped his hitting streak at 15 games last night. Seager takes it, and it's ball 1 for Lyles to a .289 hitter with 16 homers, 46 runs batted in.
You've got 2 pitchers on the hill who can be masterful, and in being masterful, that means you're hitting just the slightest parts of the strike zone. Those are not being called strikes right now. Pretty tough.
Now it's 2-0.
You know, I will say of last night's game, and not to be critical at all, it was very unusual, and I probably have never seen one to compare with that either. But you don't call them errors, but those pass balls were so huge in enabling a couple of runs last night. And yes, you can play baseball where you don't allow those runs minus the pass balls.
It's 3-0.
Now, both of these pitchers are going to be forced into the heart of the plate here at some point.
Will Porter, Eric Bedard talking about it on the bench right now. 3-1. Since 1920, teams allowing only 1 hit in a game have a record of 987 and 44 for a 95.7 winning percentage going into last night's game. Bouncer slowly hit, and it's kicked. Elmore unable to come up with it. It got away from him as he was trying to hurry and start a double play, and the Astros instead get no outs.
That's one of those 2-out errors, because that is the most routine of double play opportunities you'll find. Catch this ball, run to the bag, and throw it to first base. And so anytime you give up one of these errors that really costs you 2 outs, just double effect on any pitcher.
Like it caught him off the heel of his glove, and he was probably glancing up to look at second base and how the footwork was going to be, as he was hoping to start a double play that never happened. Now first and second, nobody out, and Justin Smoak bats. Smoak in July is hitting .353 with 3 homers, 10 runs batted in. There it is, ball 1. That was the 5th error of the year for Jake Elmore. The Astros have 71 errors this season. They have allowed 50 unearned runs.
Because of the way scoring is set up, and you're not allowed to anticipate the double play, that justifies Seager reaching on a fielder's choice.
Good point. 1-1. This is when the pitcher really wants to take it upon himself to work around that error. That was a swing, and it got off the mitt of Carlos Corcoran, but runners did not advance. Didn't know if it was fouled or not, but apparently just a swing and a miss.
It's a big mistake down at second base to anticipate, to think you've got it figured out that was a foul ball. Go ahead and move. And let's watch Carlos Corcoran, clearly a catcher who's somehow crossed up. I don't know if he ties himself. No, he's crossed up on that pitch, anticipating breaking ball.
The Astros trying to hold it together here and get an out. And that's poked up the left field line. It's slicing, and it's going foul.
I don't know what has gone on with the Astros and all the cross-ups this season, but if the signs are so difficult with a man at second base that it'll lead to this number of cross-ups, the signs are too difficult.
Well, there are different ways of managing that situation. And in the past, the Astros have had some pitchers, and Mark Portugal was one who would add or subtract to the signs the catcher had given. So in other words, he's giving the catcher the sign as to the pitch he's about to throw right before he throws it. In tight.
And I always thought that was a great way to have a pitcher control his own game. 95+% of pitchers don't want to do it. It becomes mentally taxing for whatever reason.
It's 3 balls and 2 strikes now, and Jordan Lyles needs to come up with something here on Smoke with Saunders on deck. 26 pitches for Jordan. It's his 4th 3-ball count of the game already. And he does. He gets a strikeout on Smoke for out number 1.
What a changeup, and what a situation in which to use that changeup. That's beautiful work, and a pitch that I think for Jordan Lyles could become one of the really large parts of the repertoire.
Smoke out in front of that one, and now it's Michael Saunders. Saunders is on a 9-game hitting streak. At 228, he has 6 homers, 26 runs batted in. Here's a question for you coming as a catcher when the strike zone is tight. After this next pitch, the question will be floating your way, Ash. There's ball 1. All right, so you've got a tight strike zone. You really don't want to get a whole lot of the plate, but you're telling yourself probably we need to make these guys swing the bat. Do you do that by trying to change speeds more than you might have planned?
Well, I think sometimes you might feel forced to do so. I'll tell you, number one, what you feel forced to do is throw the ball to the heart of the plate. Now, right at this moment, Jordan Lyles is struggling with the strike zone. He was on the money with some pitches, as was Felix Hernandez, and no calls for the guys. At that point, you're forced toward the center of the plate. But yeah, I think as you do that, what you should feel maybe forced to do is turn to the breaking balls and utilize more plate with it. Another close pitch, and it's a tough strike zone to find right now, but very dangerous when you find the center with these major league hitters.
It really is. 3-0 to Saunders. He's hit 353 during his 9-game hitting streak. That clips a corner, and it's 3-1.
See how in clipping the corner there, Lyles is forced up to about mid-thigh high in a dangerous zone.
And that's the tap dance a pitcher has to undergo. Foul back. You can only throw so many of those 3-1 pitches that catch a lot of home plate without it catching up with you, right?
Absolutely true. And now I wonder, does Lyles, after coming up with that strikeout changeup to Justin Smoke, consider that pitch here now for a 3-2 offering?
He walked him to load the bases.
That's exactly what they did. They went to the changeup. 83 miles an hour, very close, and no call. Yeah, that's intriguing. And they've done exactly what you're talking about, Brownie. Maybe turning to the changeup as an alternative way to utilize more plate, but at the same time get the hitters off balance.
Ackley takes, and there's ball 1 to him. 205 for Ackley, 1 homer, 13 runs batted in. Might have seen that number on the day games. Lyles 1-3 with a high ERA in day games this season. That's been an issue for him in the past. And now he falls behind. It's 2-0 on Ackley. Ackley's hit 370 against Astros pitching this year, but right here Jordan Lyles is going to have to challenge him.
You know, we get to talking about how you can go after hitters in the major leagues when things are not going your way for whatever reason. You can see the changeup and curveball have been very effective in terms of batting average against. 157 on the curveball for Jordan, although right now that pitch is getting away. The changeup is slightly missing. The fastball has been hit to a tune of 307 on the year. So when you're forced to come into the heart of the plate with that pitch, then you probably find yourself in a very precarious situation now with the bases juiced.
Ackley awaiting a 2-0 delivery, and a very big pitch coming from Lyles with the bases loaded and 1 out. He chops it foul.
Really surprised on the 2-0 there. Ackley was swinging, but he may have swung at ball 3.
Looked like he did, Ash, the way the strike zone is in this game for Todd Tichenor. He just had a late chop at that swing. Seattle hitting coach probably not too pleased with that. Dave Hansen's their hitting coach. Bouncer up the middle, and there's the play behind second by Elmore. Safe at second, and the run scores to make it 1-0. Elmore sliding, got the ball in his glove, but then in the process of trying to regain his footing and shovel to second for the force on Saunders, he didn't get it there in time. Morales scoring on a hit by Ackley, giving him his 14th run batted in.
Just a ground ball, a second one in the inning, and yet it finds that gap up the middle, and no out on the play, and so you're still lacking a pair of outs in an inning where if the one error had not been committed, you're out of the frame.
A tough inning for Elmore now, and there's a meeting at the mound with Doug Brocail. Good time to go out for a little attaboy conference because Lyles has done his job, but things are spiraling behind him and not of his own doing, Ash.
Yeah, if you want to play that "oh, woe is me" game, and it's easy to do in this game as a pitcher here, you can tell yourself, I should have been out of this inning after 3 hitters. It's not the case, and now you've got to minimize damage, especially when facing Felix Hernandez.
Henry Blanco, Felix's battery mate, is the batter. Hitting 9th, hitting 180. That one hit him to force in run number 2. Blanco hit by the pitch, and it's 2-0 Mariners. He gets his 6th run batted in.
Well, it's slipping away. And again, in an inning where Lyles, under the best of circumstances, could have faced 3 hitters. That curveball is not even an impact pitch at the moment for Jordan Lyles.
Kyle Seager home with the 2nd run. Now up to the top of the order, and Brad Miller. He led off the game with a walk. Miller takes it. It's ball 1, and certainly the Mariners hitters are probably going to be in that take mode. They've been getting ahead in counts, and 39 pitches have been thrown so far by Lyles. That's called a strike that time, and it's 1-1.
There's the first one we've seen on the afternoon on a pitch that may have been out of the strike zone.
Well, Jordan would like to take that pitch to the bank for a strike call every time. That's in for strike 2, and it's 1 ball, 2 strikes now on Miller.
I wonder if Todd Tichenor has just come to that point where he feels like, well, maybe I've been a little too tough on the fellas.
Yeah, that might make you wonder based on what we're seeing here. Curveballs tap foul, keeping it at 1 ball, 2 strikes. The Mariners have been the best offensive team in the American League in the month of July. As a result, they're 45-52 now. 10-5 in the month of July. There's a foul ball, keeping the count of 1-2. In July, for 15 games, the Mariners have scored 90 runs. That leads the majors. They lead the majors in slugging percentage and OPS. Home runs per game, extra base hits, and runs per game. Eric Wedge's club averaging 6 runs per game for the last 15 in July. 10th season as a major league manager. He was in Cleveland. Now it's 2-2. The Seattle program, and we've been talking about this throughout the weekend, with the younger players coming in at short, at second, in center field, and at catcher, has really been reaping rewards for Eric Wedge the last few weeks. Catcher has been Zunino most of the time. Line drive into left field. That'll score run number 3. Saunders coming home. 3-0 Mariners on the single by Miller. Miller gets his 13th run batted in. He's on a very nice RBI pace in his major league career. This is his 19th game.
That's one of those innings you just hate as a pitcher, as a team, as a fan, where could have been so much better, but for shabby defense, and shabby defense has been a big part of the problems for Houston.
3 runs on 3 hits for the Mariners. Nick Franklin's the batter. Bases loaded, 1 out. Franklin lined into a double play. He hit the ball sharply to Brett Wallace's right. Foul for strike 1 with Lucas Harrell getting up in the Astros bullpen. He's not pitched in a while now. He was in the rotation, now has been sent to the bullpen. That's way outside, and it's a 1-ball 1-strike count. Yeah, up against King Felix, and the way he's been pitching lately, this is a tough order, falling behind 3-0 in the second.
I don't see a pitch in the assortment for Lyles at this moment where I could say, why don't you turn to this pitch, give it a try. Nothing is sharp.
That's a deep drive, looks like a grand slam, and that is a grand slam for Nick Franklin. 7-0 Mariners as Franklin rifles one out to right field, his 7th home run of the season, giving him 24 runs batted in. And a Franklin grand slam is the 5th slam of the year by a Mariner, making it 7-0 Seattle.
7-run inning, 1 bad defensive play, and you're out of it facing 3 hitters. Well, there's finding a lot of plate up in the zone and just paying the price. And really, Jordan Lyles has found himself here in this second inning completely lost of any of that sharp stuff he had in the first inning. And he's paving his own road.
Raul Ibanez takes a ball there. It's 1 ball 2 strikes on the 9th Mariner to bat here in the second inning. Ibanez struck out in the first. Special moment for Nick Franklin, a rookie, with the grand slam. And Seattle's back on the home run attack after that home run assault was stopped last night. It's 2 balls 2 strikes. The Mariners had homered in a club record 23 straight games. Last night they got 1 hit. That was a 2-run double. They had hit 41 homers in those 23 games. Now they go back to the long ball today. In the air to left field, and Krause is waiting. Krause takes care of it, 2 outs. An inning like this can be a very long one for a shortstop who has made an error early in the inning and then watches the runs flood across home plate.
Yeah, if you're a box score watcher and really don't see the game, you see a guy that has E and his name behind it, and it looks like, well, made an error on the game. But it was a 7-run error here in this second inning.
Chris Carter takes that ground ball to the bag, retiring Morales. And it's a 7-run second. 7 runs on 4 hits with an error. 7-0 Mariners.
Welcome back to Minute Maid Park. Mariners jump on top 7-0 with a big 7-run second. We move now to the bottom of that inning. August 9th through the 12th, the Astros will take on the Texas Rangers for the final time here at Minute Maid Park. This series features a big and bright Friday night on the 9th and a Texas Country Street Fest before the game on the 10th. Call 1-877-9-ASTROS or go to astros.com to get your tickets. Brownie, back to you.
Thanks, Bart. It's Chris Carter leading it off in the home second inning. 7-0 Mariners. They now lead the majors in grand slams this year with 5. King Felix spotted with that big lead. Throws strike 1. Carter's on a 4-game hitting streak. 230, 18 homers, 47 runs batted in for Chris. That's tapped to third base. Seager cuts over. 1 out.
Last couple of ball games for Seattle just got word 11 runs scored on 5 hits.
Kind of crazy, isn't it? The Astros have still out-hit the Mariners in this 3-game weekend series convincingly. I believe it's 23-16 now in Houston's favor, but the Mariners have been doing a lot of things right. They've been capitalizing on other teams' mistakes, hitting home runs, getting good pitching. Carlos Corcoran, 274, 5 homers, 13 runs batted in. Tries to get a fire lit under the Astros here. Hernandez has retired the first 4. Carlos went 2 for 11 on the road trip right before the All-Star break, getting his first start now since the break, and taking ball 1 in tight. Carlos has a left-handed batter, is hitting 275, as a right-handed batter 274. That's consistency. Changeup drops in for a strike. That makes it 1-1. This is his 31st start behind the dish for the Astros this year. This is the 8th time this year the Astros have faced a pitcher who has won the Cy Young in his career. Line into right center field. The umpire had to move out of the way as Corcoran came up with the Astros' first hit of the day. A single. And a reminder as you enjoy a cold one to look forward to Miller time later in today's game, brought to you by Miller Lite. So that's a start for the Astros. Now Mark Krause will try to follow it up with a hit of his own. Krause at 182 has 1 homer. He's driven in 4. This is his 6th start in left field. He's also had 1 start in right and 2 at DH. That'll be a special challenge and thrill for a rookie to face King Felix, who's been one of the top pitchers over the last several years in Major League Baseball. And it's ball 1.
And we heard the interview, and a good one, with Adam Everett before the ball game, and Adam said one of the things he misses about this game is the competition, and in particular about going out and facing aces of staffs like Felix Hernandez. Intriguing comment. I haven't heard many guys really say that, but that's what it's all about. That's the bottom line, going after the very best.
It's 2-0. Felix Hernandez won his 100th career victory here. In 2010, his Cy Young year, he was 19-5 with a 2.49. Now that was actually the 2009 season. In for a strike, and it's 2-1. But the voters have become better educated, so to speak, on Cy Young voting, Ash. They're not going so much by wins and losses.
Yeah, that's changed in good part because of what Felix Hernandez was doing as a member of a not very good Seattle Mariners ball club.
And still with all the advanced sabermetrics as the count goes to 2-2. It was surprising to many that the voters gave him the Cy Young Award in 2010. He was 13-12 that year, but had a 2.27 ERA, led the league in innings with 249, walked 70 and struck out 232 that year.
And there was good competition, and I think you could make arguments for some others as well. The thing about Felix Hernandez is he was coming off just a tremendous year where he did not win the Cy Young Award, and a lot of people after it was all said and done said, well, maybe he should have won it. And I think there's a lot of that carryover.
That's a very good point. this year. He is the ERA leader at 2.53, ahead of Hiroki Kuroda, Bartolo Colon, Anibal Sanchez, and Chris Sale.
I'll say in terms of pure stuff of starters I've seen this year, Chris Sale might be at the top of my list.
Yeah.
Really good.
Dynamic. Justin Maxwell at 243 has a homer. He's driven in 6. Taps that one foul. There's strike 1 to J Max. Just 3 for 7 in the series.
Justin Verlander's a guy that's hard to deny, but he's had a struggle this year, and his velocity numbers have been down, and his command has not been the same. You wonder, does a stretch of years where you compile all the pitches and innings pitched that Verlander has had, does that have its impact?
It certainly can, as hard as he's thrown and as many innings as he's thrown, postseason included. No balls, 2 strikes. You know, going deep into the postseason can really cost a pitcher that next year.
And yet you can look back to the years of Bob Gibson, and of course Sandy Koufax is not a good name to bring up because he had such a short-lived career, but the Bob Gibsons, Juan Marshalls, Warren Spahns of the world that were able to go out and put up ridiculous numbers of innings and total pitches and seemingly never be bothered physically.
Yeah, it didn't bother Whitey Ford a lot, did it?
Yeah.
He was in the World Series almost every year. 1-2.
It was a rite of passage for Whitey Ford, the boys.
Yeah, they were. When the Yankees went to spring training, they were getting ready for the World Series in terms of mental conditioning to go that deep into a season with the extra starts and extra innings pitched.
Yeah, in those days it was a 154 game schedule. They probably never mentioned 154 because you had to add on the postseason.
You suppose Whitey Ford, Mickey Mantle, Yogi Berra, and those guys ever had a conversation in spring training like guys do today? You know, if we could just get in that play-in game, that would be a successful season for us.
Well, I think they were a group of guys who knew they were the best, and if they fell short, they were way short.
Franklin takes it over to first, and it's no runs a hit and a man left after 2, 7-0 Seattle.
This moment in history is brought to you by MD Anderson, making cancer history. July 21st of 1975, Felix Millan had 4 singles, but Joe Torre grounds into a National League record 4 double plays, batting behind Millan as the Astros beat Torre's Mets 6-2. Ken Forsch gets Torre each time with a slider. And I was a part of things with Ken Forsch behind the dish, part of a no-hitter back in 1979. That slider was the big impacting pitch in that ball game. Just a little tight job, but very, very effective.
Why didn't the Mets manager put me on in motion?
Yeah, see, there you go in hindsight. It's really easy, isn't it?
It's very easy. as Orbit will attest.
Joe Torre was probably hitting rockets that even with me on in motion turned into double plays.
No doubt. Kyle Seager's the batter. There's ball one to him as he leads off inning number 3. 10 men went to the plate for the M's in the second inning. 7 runs scored, 6 of them earned. Seager reached on what might have been a double play ball, but because of the official scoring rules, only 1 run was unearned. There's a line drive, and Brandon Barnes comes in center. He reaches out and snags it to the backhand side with a good play. 1 out.
I think we're getting to the point where we just anticipate the great defensive plays, the gems by Brandon Barnes. He's that good. That bat has come to life here recently, and the Astros hope it stays there, but just enjoy. Watch what this guy can do defensively. He is special.
And throws in the acrobatics at the end.
Yeah, he had that football mentality as a kid, and maybe you want to keep that, not only on the defensive side, but with that bat as well.
Yeah, we've seen that from him in the outfield. Justin Smoke looks at strike one. Looks like the strike zone has loosened up.
Yeah, it's become much more liberal.
Smoke struck out in the second inning.
You know, Brownie, you've seen it time and time again. Umpires, I think somehow in the days in between of working home plate, they'll probably tell themselves, I'm going to tighten this back up. And at some point early in the ballgame, 3rd, 4th inning, at least by then, you'll see them loosen right back up. And I don't know why they have that tendency to go tight early.
1-2. Well, in their review process, is it still Quest Tech that is doing the reviewing of the balls and strikes?
Actually, you'd have to tell me on that. I had heard Quest Tech was no longer a part of things, but I don't know that that's true.
Okay, that's strikeout number 3. Whatever the system is, they're supposedly presented DVDs after every game they work the home plate area, and to review the calls that their supervisors might feel were a little questionable. They want, the idea is to have a uniform strike zone for all umpires.
I think that would be ideal, but you can't even get some umpires, many, to agree that a strike should be called at or slightly above the waistband belt, as the players now wear. But yeah, is the bottom of the knees a strike?
Maybe they should run that through Congress.
I think you've probably got a better chance of a unanimous decision coming through there than you do with the Umpires Association.
Oh dear. Michael Saunders calls time. Counts 2-0. He walked in the second inning and scored on Nick Franklin's first major league grand slam. 5 slams already for the M's. It's 3-0. I really think there should be a congressional investigation of the strike zone, Ash.
Yeah, let's get that bad boy rolling tomorrow. It's Monday. Start to work, fellas.
3 balls and a strike.
And is a strike zone equal for a 22-year-old Jordan Lyles to that of a Cy Young already winner in Felix Hernandez? Tough to say.
Elmore short. The 1-2-3 third for Jordan Lyles. 7-0 Mariners. Franklin grand slam. And now the Astros come up in the bottom of the third against Felix Hernandez, who has pitched very well against them once earlier this year for that 100th career win in Houston, beating Brad Peacock here the 22nd of April with 6 innings of shutout ball on his way to a 7-1 win. 27 years old and a 4-time All-Star already. Brandon Barnes leads it off, made another outstanding catch in the top of the inning, and as we went out to commercial, you saw several of his fine plays from this year. Ball 1 to Brandon at 250. He has 5 homers, 21 runs batted in. Picked up a cycle on Friday night, going 5 for 5. He got a 6th consecutive hit as he connected in the 3rd inning for a single last night. It's 1-1.
There's that bottom of the knees that Lyles was looking for early, and now that heat is coming from the Astros dugout. It's the same pitch. You hear it time and time again in this game.
Well, Todd Tichenor was really making some pointed comments over toward the Houston bench.
Why does the Cy Young Award winner get it and our guy doesn't? And where's that one?
2-1.
Like I said, you set yourself up if you're Todd Tichenor being so tight early on, because there's going to come a point where you've got to cave for somebody. And then you start hearing from the dugouts, and it just doesn't work.
Grounded foul. 2-2 to Brandon Barnes from Southern California. He was telling his story last night at Faith and Family Night. Very interesting one. A lot of people know it, but he had given up baseball his senior year in high school. He wanted to get a scholarship to play at a Division I school in football. Very talented player, and that didn't work out. Then he went back to baseball in junior college as a walk-on. He was drafted in the 6th round by the Astros. And an 8-year journey through the minor leagues. Thought of 2 or 3 times about chucking it, going into another line of work. His wife encouraged him, and now he's having a very good season.
And it's true, you can be really good in the minor leagues, and if you were not a high draft pick, you're not going to get the same look as some of those guys. You always have to earn your way. There's no question about that. But I think the earning, the cost is a little bit steeper, and sometimes a lot steeper when you're a low round pick.
In the air, and Hernandez wants it. They stay away from him. Pitcher takes care of out number 1. Wait a minute, a pitcher's not supposed to catch a pop-up, Ash.
How about that? And he's throwing his hands in the air, telling guys to stay off. I got this thing. Having watched him make that play, looks like he's pretty sure-handed. Jake Elmore offensively here in the series has been pretty darn good. And that was a nice stroke just down through the baseball. He's done a good job in terms of his offensive play. Nice quick short stroke. That defensive side certainly has hurt here this afternoon.
Strike 1 to Elmore. He's reached base in 8 of his last 9 games. Getting a shot at playing shortstop here to see if he might be the guy. And Bo Porter was asked the other night about him. He said, well, he doesn't have 100 at bats. Yeah, let's just let him play. No balls and 2 strikes. Elmore 3 for 8 in this series, and he's been a good offensive player in the past. Had good numbers at AAA Oklahoma City. He was playing primarily second base there. Had only played 5 games at short for the Red Hawks when he was called up. It's 1-2.
Who is the guy that makes the perfect utility infielder? The guy who can play great defense at second, short, and third? Or the guy who can swing the bat really well? Or the guy who is kind of mediocre in between? If he's really good in a couple of those areas, he's going to be a starter.
Yeah, that's an intriguing question. Strikeout number 3. Ben Zobrist is good.
I'm going to jump to something else that's good for a moment. Log on to csnhouston.com and click on In-Game Live to enhance your Astros experience via computer, smartphone, or tablet. Get in-depth stats and join the social buzz. In-Game Live only on csnhouston.com.
2 outs, and it's Jose Altuve batting. He hit a fly ball to center in the first.
You bring up an intriguing name because he's an everyday starter, Ben Zobrist, who is a utility player.
Yeah. Well, that's another point, too, is if the guy's good enough as a utility player, he can work his way into everyday status, as Ben Zobrist has done. But he was able to get enough at bats by being able to play short, second, the outfield, just about anywhere, that the Rays saw the value in playing him every day. Two hoppers slowly hit. Seager over for the foul ball. Smoke with a nice stretch. It looked good, but it was foul. Nicely executed on that foul ball. But hey, you know, a third baseman charging in, he's not going to assume that that ball is foul. He's going to go through with a play.
Close play at first base, and C.B. Buckner was going to award a base hit there.
Yeah, he given the safe sign on Altuve. Well, that foul ball call cost Altuve a hit, Ash.
Yeah, that's just a shame. There goes the batting title. Well, Altuve and Seager both did it right. They were all out on the play.
Yeah. But back to King Felix catching that pop-up. Why can't a pitcher catch a pop-up? He's played baseball his whole life.
Have you seen some of these guys try to catch pop-ups?
Oh yeah. Never mind.
Well, the fact of the matter is they're not enabled that opportunity many times. I think there's this separation between position players and pitchers. Pitchers are not guys who catch pop-ups.
Single into center field for Altuve. That's hit number 2 for the Astros. That was an intriguing swing on that pitch.
Yeah.
It looked like a down and in pitch. Kept his hands out in front pretty well.
He does take some intriguing swings. That back foot will kick out behind him. See if the back foot kicks out here. Maybe a little bit as he tries to stay inside the baseball, and he'll hit some right off the end of the bat, kind of a splat job. But it's part of what makes him such an intriguing and good hitter, is his ability to hit tough pitches and find some holes with them.
Tremendous hand-eye coordination. That's his 104th hit of the season. He leads the club in hits. That one would have worked well at the British Open today. Red Wallace, the batter.
You wonder, would it have stopped too soon, too late? I don't know.
What a challenge.
Phil Mickelson, a big congratulations there. What a job he did today.
That was a surprise. Not that Mickelson was able to break through and win, but just from where he was positioned. But hey, that's the beauty of a Grand Slam type event, isn't it? Changes that can occur on the final day of the event.
Number of guys who led late in the day today. Yeah, I want to go back just briefly on the utility man issue, and I bring it up, and maybe unfairly, I don't know, in terms of Jake Elmore. Is he ultimately a guy who might be a utility infielder? Because he swings a pretty nice bat. He can play multiple positions. He may not be exceptional as a shortstop, yet to be told in terms of that story. But I think sometimes we're too critical, deeming the guy has to be perfect in all facets.
Caught by Ackley in center, and it's no runs a hit and a man left after 3. 7-0 Seattle.
Welcome back to Minute Maid. Mariners still on top 7-0 as we move to the fourth. Looking for the perfect way to combine business and baseball, or a unique space to hold your next event? Well, with state-of-the-art meeting spaces, Minute Maid Park can surpass all of your needs. Call 713-259-8800 for more information. And don't forget to ask about softball games and batting practice. Guys, back to you.
Thank you, Bart. Good time up there on a nice Sunday afternoon. Jordan Lyles, though, ran into second inning problems, and 7 runs scored for the Mariners, so he trails 7-0. Now entering the fourth inning, it's Dustin Ackley. Ackley had an RBI infield hit in that inning. There's strike one. Alex Rodriguez is going for an MRI on his thigh now. So another complication in getting him back into the Yankee lineup. Line shot over Altuve and into right field for a sharp single for Ackley.
Inside the Lines is brought to you by Scotch Blue Painter's Tape. Scotch Blue, see what you can do. And we're talking about that 7-run second inning against Jordan Lyles. Here's the play that was the biggest play of not only that inning, but the ball game, and likely will be when it's all said and done. A would-be double play ground ball that leaves you with nobody on base, 2 outs. The next man struck out. A 3-man inning for Jordan Lyles. Instead, 7 runs crossed. That's how much one play can mean in one ball game.
It really can. Henry Blanco, the batter, bounces that one foul. Strike one. Well, we look at the inning. 7 runs scored, 6 were earned. So that just blows up the pitcher's ERA. And yet, that's the way the official scorer has to do it. He's not allowed to presume a double play. But anybody who saw the game would say, well, 6 earned runs against him, that's kind of tough to handle.
Completely not fair. I mean, when you know the reality of what should have taken place if solid defense was played, then to say 6 earned runs tack on your resume, just not fair.
Strike makes it 1-2. And so when you get to the end of a season and you look at numbers, people look at fielding statistics, they look at errors, they look at unearned runs, and that doesn't even tell the full story.
Jordan Lyles was involved in another one of these at Wrigley Field earlier in the season, just a few starts back, and it chewed up his numbers. He had been pitching great baseball, but there was an error made by shortstop Marwin Gonzalez in that ball game that led to a big inning, and really the same scenario. It wasn't quite this flagrant, but Jordan's been the victim of the defense certainly a couple of times.
Line shot, and that'll hook into the seats. Henry Blanco turns 42 this year. Ibanez is 41. Don't know if you can find a couple of 41-year-olds in a major league lineup for any other club, Ash.
Yeah, that might be tough. Have to go long and hard on that one. Find a 41-year-old who's having the impact of Raul Ibanez, and you're probably talking about the Yankees and Mariano Rivera, something like that. But
okay. This A-Rod situation ought to be interesting to follow for baseball fans now, and he's hoping to be back now by Tuesday. Fly ball to center field. Barnes waiting. That's out number 1. That's one part of it, getting him back in the lineup. Then the other question is, how does the biogenesis investigation figure into keeping him in the lineup? Will that delay any kind of suspension that he may in fact serve until 2014? Because of appeals and because, you know, many people feel an arbitrator is going to decide these penalties when and if they're handed down. Right?
Yep. I mean, it's the only way. You bring up that last part. If there are suspensions handed out, will they impact the players and ultimately the teams this year?
Miller takes, and there's ball 1. You know, it's unfortunate because there has been testing for years now. A number of players have been caught on the tests, a number in the minor leagues as well, where it did not have to be approved by the Players Association. So that testing has been going on for even longer, and it's working. But it's too bad that players still think that they can get away with cheating, and it's almost to the Cavalier attitude of a Bartolo Colon being handed a suspension last year, and also a Melky Cabrera being handed a suspension. It's almost as if, from the stories and from the way things have developed, it seems that they have had the attitude, well, okay, that's fine, but I can still get another contract after I serve this suspension. And they both did.
Yeah, that's a great point. I've asked myself, and the commissioner just recently came out and said the game is cleaner now than it's ever been. And I ask myself, is it really? Are these guys who are getting caught because a lot of players still may be finding ways to get by the testing? We don't know.
Fly ball slicing, and Kraus goes over for it, makes the catch inside the left field line. 2 outs. No, we don't.
Well, you continue to see it in the Olympics, where the testing is the most stringent you'll find anywhere. You find it everywhere. Some people apparently feel they can get by the testing. Otherwise, you wouldn't see any of this.
True. Here's Franklin now. He ripped his first Major League Grand Slam in the 2nd inning after lining into a double play in the 1st. So twice he's hit the ball on the button. Franklin looks at strike 1. It's a difficult issue for a pitcher in Lyle's situation, giving up 7 in the 2nd, trailing 7-0 now. He's thrown 79 pitches in this game, but he can take a positive from it if he strings together some more zeros. About the only way he could look at it now, certainly. 1 ball, 1 strike. So what's easier to take if a pitcher gives up a big inning like that and the fielding is complicit in his ERA, or a game like last night when a pitcher pitches 6 1/3 no-hit innings and he still is the loser?
I think for a team, last night's game's tougher. I think there's a tendency to rally around the guy who made the error in a game like today and say, you know, hang with him. It's not going to happen again. But when you're Jordan Lyles individually, I don't know how he can avoid the game here this afternoon, the game we mentioned at Wrigley Field against the Cubs, and the way he's been punished by some inefficient defense. And I mean, statistically, he has been hammered over the course of this season now, and there's no way he can get around what those numbers have added up to be on his set of stats.
Well, let's turn that around a little bit and go back to some of the Astros clubs you caught for. Those very good defensive teams. And a pitcher would have so much confidence if he got a ground ball to Craig Reynolds, and he went to Billy Doran, and they went to Glenn Davis for a double play, and probably those guys would almost take it to the other extreme, Ash, and say, well, if I throw the ball down the middle here, something good's going to happen, right?
Oh, absolutely. There comes a point when guys are making solid defensive plays left and right behind you that you just feel like all you have to do is throw a strike. It's going to get done. Of course, even on the good defensive clubs, you'll make some errors that cost guys, and certain guys will unfortunately remember those lapses at the end of the year.
In the air, shallow left field. Elmore out for it. 2 in the 4th for Seattle with no runs a hit and a man left. 7-0 M's.
Go to the bottom of the 4th inning. Come to Minute Maid Park on August 9th for the next big and bright Friday night against the Texas Rangers. Starts at 7:10. Stay after the game for a spectacular fireworks show courtesy of Marathon Oil Corp. Call 1-877-9-ASTROS or visit astros.com for your tickets.
King Felix has a 7-0 lead. He's given up 2 singles through the first 3. He was handed that big 7-run frame in the Mariners' 2nd inning, including a grand slam by Nick Franklin. Now it's Castro, Carter, and Corcoran to bat against him in the 4th. Castro struck out in the 1st inning. Strike for King Felix. Hernandez from Venezuela. He was signed as a free agent in 2002 by the Mariners. They gave him a long-term deal. It's a 1-ball-1-strike count. Last year he was 13-9. He had a 3.06 ERA, so a tough luck season for him. But he pitched a perfect game and beat Tampa Bay 1-0 in mid-August last year. It's 1-2. He used to throw up around 97 tops. That fastball was at 90.
Yeah, this is not the same unhittable stuff that I've seen in the past from Felix Hernandez. And yet he continues to be an elite pitcher in terms of the numbers. Well, he delivered a couple of pitches back that he didn't get a call on, and there was a look of frustration on his part.
He got strike 3 called there, and that's his 4th K.
Here's some of the numbers on Felix Hernandez and what he does with the various pitches. Look what his changeup does, and he hasn't needed much of that here this afternoon. But it's almost untouched at a 148 batting average against the breaking ball, and he's got a variety, have been awfully good. His fastball will get hit, and more so now that we see those numbers, Brownie, drop down around the area you're talking about around 90, 91 miles an hour.
Changeup average velocity 88.8. That's a hard changeup. Strike to Carter. Carter grounded out, and that's what Rick Riz, the Seattle radio broadcaster, was saying before the game. He throws his changeup hard, but it has some very good downward action.
Well, if you can get a hitter just out in front by a foot or a matter of inches, you've got him.
Yep. Hit by a pitch. Chris Carter drilled on that one. The 3rd Houston base runner takes his base for Carlos Corcoran.
Chris is just hanging in there, starts the bat, and that leaves that right arm exposed, even the left arm. Yeah. Awfully dangerous when you turn in that direction with a pitch running up and in.
Carter's on. Corcoran batting. Carlos single to right center field in the 2nd inning. Game 3 of a 6-game homestand. The Oakland A's begin a brand new series tomorrow night. They've had a rough time against the Angels. There's strike 1. The Angels are trying to sweep them this weekend. Tomorrow night it's Dallas Keuchel and Tommy Malone in a matchup of lefties at 7:10. Astros pregame live hits the air at 6:30. Jared Cosart returns to the Astros. This will be his first start at home for the League City, Texas native. Tuesday night at 7:10. Jared Parker is his mound opponent. Big night as Jared returns to the Astros rotation after being in the minor leagues for 10 days following that spectacular major league debut at Tampa Bay. Well, Wednesday's a day game at 1:10. Bud Norris matches up with A.J. Griffin. And that's the homestand, and the Astros are getting their passports ready for the trip to Toronto after that game Wednesday afternoon. Toronto, Baltimore, and Minnesota on the next trip. Foul tip there makes it 1-2, and we understand this will be a theme trip, a hockey jersey trip for the Astros. Ash, you have your hockey jersey ready to go yet?
Well, hopefully it's on the way. I actually was going to go out and do some serious shopping tomorrow, but there may be some work done by the good TV folk. I know this is intriguing you about coming on this road trip now, because you love to wear the theme stuff.
We'll be wearing ours at home when we watch you.
Okay, I'll have this image of you. What's it going to be? Which hockey jersey are you going to wear?
You know, I feel sorry for Jeff Blum, though, because he has to fly in from the West Coast all by himself on that commercial flight and wear that hockey jersey.
All the way.
People are going to think he's weird.
Wow. No, I think he can pull it off, though.
What's he going to go for? A Kings jersey?
Mighty Ducks.
Fly ball, center field. Ackley will watch the shortstop get back and catch it. Miller, 2 outs. Astros Trivia is brought to you by your local Toyota dealer. What 2 players hold the single-season National League record? Toyota, let's go places, for most and least double plays grounded into. We know the answer.
You know the answer.
Can't give it to you.
Don't throw that "we" stuff out there too casually, okay?
We non-hockey jersey wearing people have been told the answer to this.
Wow. Most and least.
Well, here's a hint. The least is 0. Mark Krause, the batter, he struck out in the second. Most was, I think, 32. It was above 30 anyway.
When you say 0 as a least, you're talking about a guy who played on a regular basis?
He played every day.
No kidding.
A right-handed batter, and did not ground into 1 double play in that Astros season. Not 1. That is unbelievable. 2 balls, no strikes. The word double is associated with him prominently, but not double play in terms of grounding into.
Then I know who that soon-to-be Hall of Fame individual may be.
Yes, you do.
Wow.
How about that? That's out to right center field. Backing on it, Saunders on the warning track for the catch. And it's no runs, no hits, and a man left. And after 4, 7-0 Seattle.
As we move to the 5th. And, you know, the Astros have had a long and outstanding relationship with Houston Methodist, formerly the Methodist Hospital System, and they've changed their name recently. We're going to talk a little bit about that with their CEO and President Mark Boom, who is with us today. And you guys have quite a large contingent here of employees, 17,000 to be exact.
That's right. Yeah, we've got 17,000 of our employees here today. It's a great opportunity to say thank you to them for all the incredible hard work they do. You know, we have all these employees come to work every day taking care of sick people, and with the privilege of doing that, but it's hard work, it's stressful work, and so we wanted a little chance to unwind and have everybody have a great time at the ball game.
And because you guys are tied so closely to the Astros and have been for a couple of years now, all your people are big Astros fans, I noticed.
Yeah, we have lots of big Astros fans. We've been partners with the Astros for years and years, have lots of fun. Every year they come out to the hospitals and visit with our employees and many of our patients. Always a big hit whenever they do that. We also partner together in the community and support many great causes with them, particularly breast cancer.
Yeah, that was my next question. The partnership has been one that served so many people in the Houston area. I got to think that's probably what you're most proud of, is that you're able to to team with a professional sports team like this and bring so much good to the Houston community.
We are very proud of that. It's the Astros do such wonderful work in the community. We're there to help in the community. We raise money for a number of causes together. We provide sports medicine care for the Astros players themselves, as well as then many, many people out in the community who want that level of sports medicine care. So it's a real privilege working with the Astros.
Now, Mark, I mentioned the name change to Houston Methodist. Why the name change?
Well, the Methodist Hospital, or formerly the Methodist Hospital, really is very prominent nationally, but one of the issues we always faced was there's about 80 Methodist hospitals around the country, and we really needed to distinguish it. We thought, what better way than the city that's made us what we are and that we're so proud of, and so we tweaked the name a little bit to Houston Methodist. We're very excited about that. It's really a very fun thing to tout ourselves nationally with all of the great results that are happening within Houston Methodist.
Well, you do a great job, and thanks for spending a few minutes with us. We appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of the game. Brownie, they originally requested 15,000 tickets, and they had to get 2,000 more because those went like hotcakes. So these people are big Astros supporters. Back up to you.
Thanks, Bart. And they were here early having a good time. There was a little concert on the field before the game, some face painting, all kinds of extra touches for this Houston Methodist Sunday. Kyle Seager, the batter. There's ball one after the double by Ibanez and the RBI single by Morales made it 8-0. Seager's 0 for 2. Oh, the bat takes off and goes into the crowd over the Astros dugout. They're checking around to make sure everybody's all right. The little guy got hit and he's holding his head. Hopefully just a glancing blow. They'll get some attention to him right away, and the players, Astros players, are pointing in that area so they can get some medical help right away for the youngster.
Well, hopefully all is good there.
It looks like it is fine.
Keep your focus on the hitter when you're hanging out this close to things, right by the dugouts.
Yeah, that's a relief that that little guy is looking like he's going to be okay. Terrible feeling for a player to look up in the stands and see that bat that he just launched has hit a kid. I would imagine that could ruin an at bat for a guy, even though he's on the road, Ash, thinking that a little kid might be hurt by that bat because he didn't hang on to it.
Sometimes you even hang on to the bat and you hit a line drive that can create problems, and it's not just a game destroyer for a guy. You'll carry it quite a while.
2 balls, 2 strikes, and it's not unusual at all to hear stories about a player being so concerned that he wants to meet with a kid after the game if they can set up that kind of a meeting and give him some kind of an autographed item.
Now, when there's a good outcome, those are really the best of circumstances.
Seager got drilled by the pitch. He's feeling some pain himself. Runners at first and second now in this 8-0 game.
Like to think there was no intent right here. I don't know if Kyle or Jordan Lyles rather has gotten to that point on the day where frustration's setting in, and you maybe try to back some people off the plate in a serious manner.
Earlier, Lucas Harrell was warming up in the Astros bullpen. Now there's another Harrell warm-up time here. It's the 8th or the 9th time Jordan Lyles has hit a batter. He also hit Blanco back in the 2nd inning. So Harrell is heating it up in earnest there in this 8-0 game, and the batter is Smoke. 92 pitches for Lyles. This might be one of those let's get him out after 100 type games. We'll see what develops. Smoke is 0 for 2 with a 2 punch-out day going. 8 runs on 7 hits for the Mariners. 0-2-1 for the Astros. And it's ball 1. And regarding last night's game, if you weren't with us earlier, Bo Porter was asked about removing starting pitcher Eric Bedard. Eric actually removed himself. He said he was done, but Bo Porter said, I don't want my guys to throw more than 120 pitches in a game, and I've told the starting pitchers that you get up around 120 and you better get your work done in that amount of time, because I'm not going to stay with you much beyond that point. 2-0. He just doesn't want to risk an injury. Liner, Elmore can't grab it. It's on through to center field. Barnes comes up with it. Stop sign at third. And the bases are loaded on the hit by Smoke. Well, 4 straight have reached here in the 5th inning. And in view of the way this game has developed, that's going to be it. Bo Porter coming out. It makes every sense to make the move here. 95 pitches for Jordan Lyles. 8 runs on 8 hits for the Mariners. Bases loaded, nobody out. Harrell hasn't pitched for a while, and he's coming in.
We want to remind you to tune in to Chevy Hometown Kids every Saturday morning at 9:30 on CSN. Chevy Hometown Kids, where it's not about the score, but the experience.
Good experience for that little guy. It only hurt for a little bit. He wiped away the tears. He's not in need of medical attention. And they're watching Lucas Harrell warm up. He comes in with the bases loaded, nobody out. He's 5-10 with a 5.07 ERA, and he's been hit hard. A chance for him to get on track today, Ash.
Yeah, and it's been a season for Lucas Harrell where he's needed to find a way to get on track, and just it's hard to figure at times for Lucas. You can find him in a given game where he is lights out, and then very next time it'll be one of those head scratchers.
That's for sure. It's been a puzzling year, I'm sure, for Lucas Harrell. There's ball 1. Saunders the batter. Saunders has walked and scored, and he's grounded out. And he's had a number of those outstanding games. 7 innings, 1 run. Games of that nature. And then he's had them turn the other way. In the dirt. 1-1. I think probably the most difficult thing for Lucas Harrell to handle this year is the walks, because they have been numerous. 57 walks in 108 and a third innings. Batting average against him is .284, and that really compounds the problems with those 57 walks and that batting average.
It's a guy that was viewed as a command sinker ball pitcher.
Altuve to his left. There's a command pitch, but only 1 out as the run scores to make it 9-0. He got the ground ball, but Altuve had to move a couple or 3 steps to his left. And that meant Saunders was able to beat the double play replay from Elmore. RBI number 27 for Saunders.
Yeah, this is a tough scenario for even Jordan Lyles to have to come out with the bases juiced and watch what goes on now with Lucas Harrell on the hill. But Lucas would love to get one more ground ball, get a double play, get out of this thing, and just cut down on the damage to some extent for Jordan Lyles. A tough afternoon.
Ball 1 to Dustin Ackley. Ackley's 2 for 2 with an RBI. Lyles watching. Jordan went 4 innings plus today. Strike makes it a 1-ball, 1-strike count. Dallas Keuchel tomorrow night will take a 4-5 record to the mound against the Oakland Athletics and Tommy Malone. He's 8-8. 2 balls, 1 strike. The Angels are looking spunky in that series, even though they had been swept by Seattle right before the break. Angels trying to put a run together, as are the Mariners, to tighten up the AL West. Foul ball goes back into the seats for a 2-ball, 2-strike count. Oakland leads Texas by 2, but Oakland's lost the first 2 in Anaheim, and Texas has lost 3 in a row. So that's allowed the Angels to move to within 9 and Seattle to move to within 11. Breaking ball dips low, and it's 3-2 now to Dustin Ackley. Harrell got a loss at Tampa Bay July 13th. Gets a foul ball there. He worked an inning and 2/3 and gave up 1 run through 47 pitches. He went into the relief role following his start at Texas July 5th, in which he allowed 7 earned runs in 3 2/3 innings. In 11 of his 19 starts, he's given up 2 runs or fewer. Line drive left. Krause coming in. Krause lays out for it. Makes the catch. Here's the tag. And the run scores to make it 10-0. Good catch by Krause. By the time he got to his feet, Seager was well on his way to scoring run number 2. Astros Trivia is brought to you by your local Toyota dealer. And we showed you the double play question. What 2 players hold the single season NL records for most and fewest double plays grounded into? Number 7, Craig Biggio, did not ground into 1 single double play, playing all of the 97 season. On the other hand, in 08, Miguel Tejada grounded into 32 double plays.
Well, I would say the latter is easier to do than the former. I don't know how you play all season long and play like Craig Biggio does, or did, and probably still could, and not ground into a double play.
Pretty crazy, isn't it? Strike to Henry Blanco. It's 1-1 to him. He was hit by a pitch that drove in a run in the 2nd inning. He's 0 for 1.
Just more for the legend of Craig Biggio, huh?
Bouncer Harrell. And hopefully we'll be reliving that legend this time next year in terms of Hall of Fame status for Craig Biggio. 10-0 Seattle. Houston Astros baseball on Comcast Sportsnet is brought to you by Jack in the Box. Go big at a Jack in the Box near you with Jack's Big Stack Burger. And by your local Toyota dealer. Toyota, let's go places. Seattle Mariners are going places. They're trying for a sweep of this 3-game series. It would be a 6-game winning streak that they would be taking back to Seattle. They'll entertain the Cleveland Indians starting tomorrow night. That's a long flight from here to Seattle, about 2,500 miles. 10-0 lead for King Felix. Justin Maxwell in the box. And the ground ball goes to Miller, who doesn't make the pickup, and it's safe at first. Looked like he might have been able to get him with a strong throw, but he did not. So that will be a miscue on Miller, and Maxwell reaches.
Yeah, good for Justin Maxwell digging down the line and eventually gets the call. We'll see how close this turns out. Keep in mind, Seattle with Brendan Ryan, their other shortstop, they are so good in that regard, and now they try to go with a little bit of youth. They've been better in doing so, but not quite the same defense. That looks like one of those bang-bang plays.
Yep. Error number 3 for Miller this year. Now there's a foul ball from Brandon Barnes, strike 1. Popped up to the pitcher. First error of the day for the Mariners. The Astros have made one. Jake Elmore is on deck. The Mariners had not swept a 3-game series until they swept the Angels right before the break. Now back, and it's 0-2. Rays lead the Blue Jays in Toronto. It's 4-1 in the bottom of the 8th now. This one gets away from Blanco, and Maxwell advances to second base.
Starting to look like the Blue Jays were just bluffing when they won about 11 in a row and got back to 500 ball.
Yeah, Mark Burley made reference to that when he was asked about the problems. He said, you know, it's hard to figure. We won 11 in a row and things were going so well, and that's been a turnaround now since then. So the talent is there, but they have a lot of underproducing players. Chris Archer, the fine rookie for Tampa Bay, is shuttling them so far today. R.A. Dickey's on the losing end of that one. Fouled ball, and he just barely stayed alive. That one did not stay in Blanco's mitt for a strikeout. Dickey, in 6 innings, gave up 4 earned runs to the Rays, including a Kelly Johnson homer, his 15th, a Luke Scott homer, his 9th. So Dickey has an ERA of 4.75 after winning a Cy Young Award last year. And apparently his back has been bothering him this year. Archer is quite a talent, though, as the Astros saw. That's a shot foul. Good-looking young right-hander, Ash.
They've got some young talent, and they continue to produce the young talent with Tampa Bay. That kid, though, he was held back in the minor leagues because of command issues. He simply couldn't stay away from the walks, but recent starts say with his mid-90s stuff, he is not walking people anymore. He's got a chance to be really good.
And Tampa Bay is taking a run toward the top in the AL East, trailing Boston by a game and a half. That one's a foul ball, and the count remains 1-2 to Brandon Barnes. Yankees and Red Sox play a night game in Boston. CC Sabathia with a 9-8 record, opposing Ryan Dempster. He's 5-8. Clay Buchholz continues to be on the DL for the Red Sox, Ash.
You see any way for those Yankees to turn it back around and get themselves into the postseason?
I think they could.
Yeah.
Kind of crazy, isn't it? But I think they could. It probably depends not only on players getting healthy, like A-Rod and Derek Jeter, and some of the other guys. Let's see, Teixeira's out for the year, isn't he?
I believe so.
Yeah. But they have somebody else who's recovering and might come back and help them. Oh, yeah, Curtis Granderson. He's not too far away. They're 52 and 45. They're in 4th, but they're only 6 games out of 1st. Barnes strikes out. That's number 5. But I really think that they could still make a run, although with all the good teams in their division, 4 of the 5 above 500, they're really going to have a sustained period of, you know, Andy Pettit's got to pitch well, Sabathia's got to pitch well, and so on down the line. So huge. But I think they can still do it.
If there is any group of fans or any team that has the right to say injuries just took us down this year, I think it's the Yankees.
Oh, no doubt. They have been hit really hard. Strike 1 to Elmar. You know, you look at the box score of Yankees and you say, these guys are not Yankees.
Yeah, no, it's not their
names.
It's not the club that was signed to huge contracts to help the Yankees once again win it all.
0-2 to Elmore.
That's been a severe beatdown that the injuries have done to that team this year. And yet, as you say, with far less than a half of the season remaining, if they could get 2 or 3 of those names back. Michael Pineda would be one of the big guys if they could get him in that pitching rotation. CC Sabathia has underperformed, but probably a lot of that due to the fact the offense has been just really in tatters this year.
In the dirt, 1-2. Well, it would require probably a combination of circumstances. The Red Sox would have to be slowing down some, and the other clubs would have to have a few bumps in the road. Baltimore is 55-43. Good club, not a dominant club.
What the Baltimore Orioles can do is score some runs. They've got a instant attack offense with the long ball, and they play in a good home run yard. But their pitching is certainly questionable.
Yeah, they've tried to address it with that one deal with the Cubs. It looks like they've gotten a little bit better in the rotation. Miguel Gonzalez is pitching well for them. He's had a series of good starts, but I think all their starters are capable of slumps.
I really didn't see this year coming for the Red Sox after trading away the likes of Adrian Gonzalez and others that they sent away. Josh Beckett, and he's been a non-impactor at all for the Dodgers this year.
Sure has.
Adrian Gonzalez is a whale of a player. The Red Sox have found a way. Some guys have rebounded. And
how about Iglesias?
Good-looking young player. He is. Had no idea that he would be as good as he's been with the bat early on. That'll catch up with him at some point. But David Ortiz has been, along with Dustin Pedroia, probably the big reasons why the Red Sox have been so good offensively this year. Jacoby Ellsbury has been far closer to the player he was a couple of years ago than he was last year.
Grounded and in the hole. Here's Miller with a long throw, not in time. That's an infield hit for Elmore. Very good try, but Miller really had little chance to get Elmore. And it's hit number 3 for the Astros, getting Maxwell to third base.
May I say, for this play, for Miller, the far better opportunity would have been to toss to third base and see if they might be able to get the play. What probably set them up for not having a shot at third base was Seager moving to his left to begin with.
True. Elmore runs pretty well. He's on with a single. First and third one out for Altuve now. In this 10-0 game, Altuve singled up the middle in the third. He's 1 for 2. Inside, that one almost clipped him. Ball 1. Altuve's career statistics so far for his couple of years plus in the big leagues, very close to the early tracking of Asdrubal Cabrera of Cleveland. So that's a fairly decent comparison through the 09 season for Asdrubal Cabrera. Pretty good player. In for a strike, 1-1.
Look at that fastball and a little bit of something bothering Felix Hernandez on that pitch, but that fastball had good movement, but the velocity all the way down to 89 miles an hour. This is a guy who used to pitch in the mid-90s, and I would think even with the terrific numbers he's putting up this year, there has to be some concern.
He may have tweaked his ankle a little bit.
Kind of a Bud Norris type ankle injury here on the landing. You can see that little slide.
Well, if he get his pants off his spikes, it might not happen.
Those pants don't lock down on the ground the way the spikes do?
No. No, they don't. Just kidding. But not really. Fashion trends cannot get in the way of winning. Nope. Bouncer to second, and the tag and the throw, double play. Franklin was able to tag Elmore and then double up Altuve, and it's no runs, one hit, one error, one left after 5, 10-0 Mariners.
Welcome back to Minute Maid Park. Mariners on top 10-0. The Astros not having a good day, but we got a little fan right here who's having a pretty good day. You saw the play in that last inning where Kyle Seager lost control of his bat. It came down here in the second row right behind the dugout. Looked like it could have been a dangerous situation, although Sean Raymond is here with his 3 little boys, and Lyle ended up taking one, just grazed him, didn't he? But he's a tough customer.
More scared than anything else, but you got a bat. That's right.
Lyle, were you afraid when the bat came over here?
Yeah, I was kind of.
Kind of afraid? Did it hurt?
Kind of.
Kind of hurt. But you got a bat out of it.
Yeah.
Now, what are you going to do with the bat when you get home? You going to show all your friends?
Yeah.
He's going. Dad says he's not going to use it on his brothers. And his brothers are a little bit upset that they didn't get a bat or a ball or anything else. So we're going to make the Raymond family here our progressive fans of the game, and we're going to give, since Lyle got the bat, we're going to give the bag to the other 2.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome, pal. You guys enjoy the game. Everybody's good down here, Brownie. Back up to you.
Dr. Bart Ennis, fix-it man. Everything's good with that family.
Bart, that was kind of a spectacular interview.
Yeah. I think you've spent some time with kids that age before, Bart.
I have. Yes, I have. And I missed that. I may just stay down here with them. You guys do the post game.
Oh, that projectile caused only a momentary concern. Happy story. Ground ball to second, and that's an out for Lucas Harrell on Miller, opening the 6th inning. Jordan Lyles in 4 innings allowed 8 hits, 10 runs, 9 earned, walking 2, fanning 3. Franklin ripped a grand slam in the 2nd inning after lining out into a double play. Then he popped a short in the 4th inning. Pirates 3, Reds 1. Bottom of the 8th, that's Cincinnati. Reds have given the Pirates a rough time this weekend so far. Reds have won 3 in a row. Pirates have lost 3 in a row. Pittsburgh 2 behind St. Louis. Cincinnati 4 behind St. Louis. Matt Holliday on the DL now for the Cardinals. Foul ball goes back and out of play, and it's 0-2 to Franklin. And the Pirates really have had a strong run. But now the question is, in Pittsburgh, will they add to their club by making a deal? Jeff Locke pitched well today, 6 innings, 1 hit, 1 run. Homer Bailey also had a good outing for the Reds. He's out. Line shot into right center field. A hit for Franklin, his second of the day.
And for Lucas Harrell, no secret about it. With that sinker ball that he has, he's got to stay down. When he is around the knees, he's successful. When he's not, he's going to get hit hard.
Raul Ibanez is 1 for 3. He doubled to left and came around to score on a hit by Kendrys Morales. Strike to Ibanez. White Sox lead the Braves mid-6th at U.S. Cellular 2-1. Jake Peavy acquitted himself well in his return to the White Sox rotation. He might be dealt before the end of the month. No balls, 2 strikes. I think a lot of clubs would like to have a healthy Jake Peavy. He's making a lot of money, so that would be a factor in that trade.
Yeah, I imagine there's really nothing close to a guarantee of a healthy Jake Peavy.
True. He spent a lot of time on the sidelines the last few years. That would be the scary part about dealing for such a player with such a high contract value. 1-2, Jose Quintana starting for the White Sox today against Mike Minor for Atlanta. In the dirt, and the runner takes off and will make it without a throw from Carlos Corcoran on a wild pitch. Franklin to second base.
That's a good job of blocking the pitch by Corcoran, but great reaction by Franklin, taking off instantly as the pitch was in the dirt.
He was ready to roll. He was a top fuel dragster on that one. Good takeoff. Pitch outside, and it's 3-2 now to Ibanez. I doubt if Jack Zarensic, the general manager, thought Ibanez would be playing this much when he signed him to come back. That's how quickly he got the takeoff.
I imagine most baseball people thought that was possibly beyond a risky sign.
Yeah.
How much can you get out of a guy at this age?
An awful lot, as it turns out. Surprise, surprise to some folks.
Of course, the Yankees got a load out of him in the postseason last year in particular. He was as good as it gets as a pinch hitter coming in late. Seattle just took a flyer, and it's paid off.
Matt Harvey and the Mets shut out the Phillies 5-0. Harvey is 8-2. He beat Cliff Lee. He's 10-4. Harvey was 7 innings of 3-hit shutout ball. He seems to be the real deal, Ash.
Boy, does he ever. And he wants to be like Derek Jeter in the city of New York. He might have that chance.
Well, yeah, this year he's light years ahead of Jeter, who hasn't been able to get on the field. But Harvey's 8-2 with a 2.23 ERA. Cliff Lee, the loser, goes to 10-4. His ERA 3.05, and Phil's blanked by the hard-throwing Harvey.
Watching that young lady with the baseball down the left field side. I wonder if the individual who sewed up that baseball ultimately and put it in the packing had any idea it would bring that much joy to somebody.
You know, it's funny you would bring up that topic. I just saw a piece on the internet on the manufacturing of baseball, and it was fascinating. And it's not as if these pieces haven't been around for years, but they're still doing it the old-fashioned way and stitching them by hand. Oops. Nice recovery.
That's a gutsy play by a young lady.
It's a team effort.
Absolute team there.
They worked completely in concert with each other in corralling that foul ball.
Don't lose each other. You got something going on.
This will be the 10th pitch to Ibanez. They're still hand stitching those baseballs, Ash.
Yeah.
In this day and age.
Is there any other way to make that actually happen on that baseball?
I don't think so.
Well, available for iPhone, iPad, Android, and BlackBerry 10. MLB.com, not a baseball that's just sewed up for you. At Bat delivers Astros baseball with live audio, pitch tracking, stats, news, highlights, and a whole lot more. Text At Bat to 31826 or visit Astros.com for your details.
Kendrys Morales, the batter. He has 2 hits, an RBI. That's ball 1 to him. The Dodgers and Washington Nationals are in the bottom of the 8th in Washington. 9-2 Dodgers. Clayton Kershaw checked out after 7 innings of 2-hit, 2-run baseball. He didn't walk anybody, and he fanned 9. His ERA is down to 2.01. Jordan Zimmerman went the other way. Zimmerman gave up 8 hits and 7 earned runs in 2 innings. Matt Kemp hit his 5th home run, and Ramirez number 10. Ramirez really lighting it up now. He's hitting .393, has a .445 on base average, and a .721 slugging percentage. Foul pop. Brett Wallace over. Out of play for him.
Well, those numbers you throw out there for Hanley Ramirez, that's the Hanley Ramirez of what, 5-6 years ago in Florida?
Yeah.
Wow.
Drove in the go-ahead run in the 10th last night.
Talk about taking a flyer on a guy, and I don't know, will it pay off more than 1 year? Hard to say, but looks like he has found the magic again.
Here's a stat you didn't know about Hanley Ramirez.
You better be careful when you throw that kind of phrase out there.
For his career, he's hitting .467 after the 9th inning.
I did know that.
He's 28 for 60 after the 9th inning. Chopped off the plate, Harrell in, throwing high, and got the out call at second on good footwork by Elmore. That's out number 2 with Ibanez being forced from 1 to 6.
Do you think a 10-0 score came into play here on this call? I think it's certainly possible.
Well, the neighborhood might have been expanding.
It's a really aggressive play by Lucas Harrell. I think the friendly neighborhood call absolutely came into play here.
It might have gone from Dale Scott's neighborhood to Mr. Rogers' neighborhood. Yeah. Well, I think he had his foot on the base.
You know, he very well may have. Nice job by Jake Elmore. Nice job on the call.
Strike to Kyle Seager. Seager is 0 for 2, hit by a pitch.
Interesting thing, it appeared to be the left foot on the bag there by Elmore, and not the right leg that you would figure he could get the larger stretch with.
Yes. 10-0 Seattle. Mariners won 10-7 Friday night. They won 4-2 last night. So twice in a 3-game series at Minute Maid Park, they've been in double figures in runs.
Well, we got warned as the Mariners were coming into town that they've been scoring a bunch of runs, but power was the game.
Upstairs, and it's 2-2. Yeah, when you can win a game getting 1 hit.
Well, they did get the 2-run double, did they not?
They did. That is a rarity. Altuve to his left. Over to Carter. And it's no runs a hit. 2-man left. Middle of the 6th inning. 10-0 Seattle.
The Astros 10-0. Hey, circle this one on your calendar. August 5th through the 7th, the Astros take on Big Papi, David Ortiz, Dustin Pedroia, and the Boston Red Sox in their only trip to Minute Maid Park this season. Call 1-877-9-ASTROS or go to astros.com to get your tickets to be here to see the Red Sox. Guys, back up to you.
Andy Chavez has checked into the game. He's the new right fielder. And that has triggered other movements in the outfield. Michael Saunders moves from right field to center field. Dustin Ackley moves from center field to left field. Brett Wallace is the batter in the bottom of the 6th inning. And tapping that one foul, strike one. Wallace is 0 for 2. King Felix shooting for win number 11 of the season. There's Ackley in left. This is the 8th time the Astros have faced a former Cy Young Award winner. In the previous 7, those pitchers against Houston this year are 6-1 with a 1.13 ERA, 3 walks and 45 strikeouts. And the trend is continuing here with the way Felix Hernandez is pitching, and certainly being spotted with a 7-run lead in the top of the 2nd inning has allowed him to be very comfortable. Inside for a ball, that makes it 1-2.
That's the hump up heater right now at 91.
Line drive over the third baseman Seager into left field by Wallace, and Brett is 1 for 3 in this game.
Jason Castro had some karma going his way against Felix Hernandez back on April 22nd. Driving this one off the wall. A couple of doubles in this game for Jason against the King. Yanked one down the right field side. This was kind of the beginnings of Jason Castro showing that he not only had that drive to left field ability, but that also ability to take the inside pitch and yank it down the right field side.
Strikeouts on the card today for Castro. One swinging, one looking. Jason looks at ball 1. Tigers 3, Royals 1. They're in the bottom of the 7th at Kansas City. Miguel Cabrera belted his 31st homer. Andy Dirks number 7 for Detroit. Miguel Tejada hit number 3 for the Royals. It's 1-1. Kansas City club has fallen 4 games below 500. And with Detroit, not exactly in great situation, but still 52-44, 542 winning percentage. A game and a half ahead of Cleveland coming into play today. Tigers might be able to fix their closer situation and get moving. This drive goes out to center field. Saunders with the catch. And Wallace holding. He went back to tag. It's out number 1. Doug Fister started for Detroit today. He gave up 1 run in 6 innings. James Shields still in there for Kansas City. Miguel Cabrera is hitting .360 right now. 31 homers, 96 runs batted in.
I took a look at the numbers of Miguel Cabrera this year at the end of the first half going to the All-Star break versus last year, and they are astoundingly better this year than last year in that Triple Crown season.
That is incredible.
The home runs, and I don't recall the numbers specifically, but I want to say he was close to double the number of home runs. It might have been 30 to 18, something of that nature.
It is a big difference. Foul ball makes it 1-1 to Chris Carter. The oddity of last night's game has been written about, with Eric Bedard going 6 1/3 no-hit innings, giving up 3 runs. He became only the 10th pitcher since 1900 to lose a game in which he pitched at least 6 innings and allowed no hits. And 3 of those 10 were pitching for Houston. Ken Johnson lost a complete game no-hitter, 1-0 to the Reds in 1964. And Don Wilson, also against the Reds in 1974, gave up 2 unearned runs but no hits over 8 innings in a 2-1 loss. 2 balls, 1 strike.
I think Don Wilson's a name that you might even anticipate on a list like that. A guy that gave himself chances for no hitters. You kind of figure to be one of those guys.
Yeah.
And somewhere along the line, fortune is not smiling upon you.
We had that one 8-inning game we talked about, a no-hitter, and he had 2 complete game 9-inning no-hitters. Wilson at his best was really something. Now Blanco out to talk it over with Hernandez, and his number is number 40. One of the all-time pitching greats in the Astros franchise history. Marlins nothing, Brewers nothing. They're in the bottom of the 8th at Milwaukee. In the dirt for a ball that makes it 3-2. Willie Peralta's got the shutout going through 8 for Milwaukee. Alvarez pitched 7, shutout for Miami, and left the game at that point. Giancarlo Stanton went up to try to catch a drive at the wall and knocked it over the fence for a homer in last night's game.
Always a proud moment.
How about Jose Canseco, though? He went back and didn't even get leather on a ball. It hit off his head and went over the fence for a homer.
Soccer fans are always proud of a true hitter.
Corbett does make the rounds here at Minute Maid Park. In the dirt on ball 4, and now runners at first and second with 1 out for Carlos Corcoran. The first walk to go with a hit batter for Hernandez. Very stingy, only 27 walks now. He's pitched over 144 innings.
Yeah, getting back just quickly on Miguel Cabrera, because he is the most interesting man in the world. Last year, pre-All-Star, 18 homers, 71 ribbies, and a .324 batting average. That is what preceded his Triple Crown season. Great numbers. But compared to this year, just rather pale, as the numbers this year are astounding.
Corcoran fouls it back, strike 1. So there's his fantastic repeat season so far. There's Chris Davis, and he's been on a 62 home run pace for the Baltimore Orioles. Some definite performers to watch here from now on out to the end of the season. Wallace at second and Carter at first.
Yeah, I think it's easy to anticipate that Cabrera will continue to put up big numbers. He's done it already. But I think all eyes will be on Chris Davis now.
Well, I was reading a story about Ryan Howard, who hit 58 homers in 06. And he really tailed off the last 3 weeks of the season. That can happen with somebody who's on that record type of home run pace. And by record, we're talking about Roger Maris's record, which many of us regard as still the true single season record. Foul away, 1-2 to Corcoran.
I think that's really the way to honor what he did.
Chris Davis has said that's the way he views it, that Maris with the 61 homers at 61 has the record. Not Barry Bonds, not Sammy Sosa.
Not Mark McGwire, for that matter.
McGwire, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. Strike, and Corcoran is caught looking for out number 2. Strikeout number 6.
Just a good job of finding the inside edge. Catcher moves, fastball finds the inside edge with great late movement. Yeah, Corp thinks he sees it well, but what you don't anticipate is that late run back toward the plate.
Mark Krause has struck out and he's flying to right. Astros will be welcoming the new pitcher, Jared Cosart, back to their fold Tuesday night, so they'll need to make A player move, obviously, to make room for him on the club. Typically, that doesn't happen until the day of the game. Strike one to Krause.
I don't know if it's fair when a guy like Cosart comes to the big leagues and is as dominant as he was in that debut, because the anticipation now is that he'll do that all the time. But that was a phenomenal outing
against a good club. Which his family and friends flew to St. Petersburg to watch that game. Now they won't have to travel. 1-1. We'll see half of League City here Tuesday night, won't we, Ash? Big night.
League City.
Yeah. Ever been there?
Oh, I've been there. Felt like Kramer right there. Oh, I've been there.
How many times in your life have you felt like Kramer?
More than I'd like to admit right now, Brownie.
Foul back, and it's a 1-ball, 2-strike count. Hector Noesi is warming up. So it appears that after 6 innings, Mr. Hernandez might take a powder today, and that would be the way a lot of managers would play it in a 10-0 type ball game with a workhorse on the mound, a guy who leads the American League in innings pitched. The game is secured. Noesi hasn't pitched in this series. Why not get that arm out of the game and maybe save him for later on in the season?
That's called good managing. Take care of your players.
2 balls, 2 strikes. Another thing that might happen sometimes, and you know, there's a book that you need to read about the code is the name of the book, about the way major league players and managers play the game of baseball, the unwritten code. Talking about when do you stop stealing bases?
If it's unwritten, how do you research that?
That's the problem. It's a different understanding on the part of different people as to what the code is. But running up the score is taboo in a situation like this. You know, trying to score a guy from first on a double, things like that, when there might be an opportunity to hold him. Some managers do it because they want to get an RBI for that player who hit the double. Other managers say, no, we're not rubbing it in. Runners go, and it's a swing and a miss. And that ends the 6th inning. With no runs a hit and 2 men left, we go to the 7th with the score 10-0 Mariners.
As we move deeper into the ball game, today's game summary is brought to you by Land Rover. And it's pretty easy to summarize this game. 2nd inning is where it takes place. Ground ball as Jordan Lyles is on the hill, but that ground ball does not get the intended double play. Instead, the error ensues, and then all of this garbage, walks, hit batter, and a grand slam eventually surface in that inning. 7 runs for Seattle in an inning that very well could have gone a 1-2-3 frame for Jordan Lyles. Instead, 7 runs, 6 of them earned. and just the beginnings to this rout that's now 10-0 Seattle.
Lucas Harrell in the game, and it is 10-0 as Justin Smoke leads it off. There's strike one to Smoke. Smoke is 1 for 3. Felix Hernandez out of this game now. He's been shaking hands with his teammates after pitching that 6th inning. Hector Noesi apparently will be coming in for the bottom of the inning. It's 1-1. Hernandez in 6 innings has allowed 4 hits, no runs, walking 1, fanning 7, and hitting a batter. 99 pitches for King Felix. Win number 11 seems secure for him at this point. He would be 11-4. High drive, Barnes backing on it. Barnes is way back in left center and catches up with it. 1 out.
Brandon Barnes, with his combination of speed and instincts, turns this into a rather routine play when it's all said and done. But that's because he goes hard to get to the spot. Sets himself up pre-wall at that point, and again it turns into a semi-routine play, but that's all about instincts and going hard to begin with.
Excellent point. Michael Saunders bats. This ball went to him. Saunders has an RBI. He's 0 for 2 with a walk. Indians lead the Twins 6-1 in the top of the 9th at Minnesota. Justin Masterson was masterful. 7 innings, 1 hit, 1 run. Jason Kipnis hit his 15th homer. Strike, 1-1.
That's a pretty good player you bring up, Jason Kipnis, second baseman. A lot of folks may not know about him, but a real key component of what the Indians do.
He's a big part of their club, you're right. And they are just a game and a half behind Detroit right now, staying right in the fray in the AL Central. 2 balls and a strike. Back to our discussion of the code, because it's 10-0 in the 7th inning. And we have to talk about something. 3 balls and a strike.
Are you sure?
Do you want to do the announcerless game?
It's been done before, Brownie. We've got to do something else.
There's a walk, and that's number 2 for Harrell. All right, so team's running up the score. It's 10-0 right now. When do you stop trying to steal bases? That's the code. You stop trying to steal bases when it's 10-0 in the 7th inning. That is pretty well agreed upon by
10-0, or how about 6-0?
Well, a lot of people would say 7 runs.
Some people would say 5, and therein you start getting into a real problem in my mind.
Yep. So that's the code, the discussion of it. Different nuances interpreted differently by different people.
And is it the 7th inning or is it the 6th inning? Some people think it's either one. It might even come later if it's 5-0 and now you get to the 8th inning. Does the code kick in? There's just so many components of what this individual and that think the code consists of.
Yes. That was a shot into left field and a hit for Ackley. Ackley's 3rd hit of the game.
Yeah, we'll get off code for a moment. Treat your employees, hosts, clients, or bring out your church or youth sports team. Call 1-877-9-ASTROS or visit astros.com to enjoy special pricing and great benefits by reserving your group or suite today.
Up in the suites, they're watching Henry Blanco settle into the box. Blanco's 0 for 2. He was hit by a pitch with the bases loaded to give him an RBI. Bouncer 3rd, Wallace to 2nd, and Altuve had a problem handling it. He got the out call. The ball popped out of his bare hand as he tried to transfer it, so that's out number 2 from 5 to 4. Good strong throw by Wallace.
Unfortunately, this is what more and more of the play here in recent times has turned into for the Astros. I would question, in a really tight ball game, was that ball ever truly caught?
Didn't look like he had possession of it on that replay.
Yeah, you've got plays that should be made routinely at this level, and they're not getting made right now.
And he was, in his haste to transfer the ball, he was kind of juggling around in his glove there. Strike to Miller. Miller has a hit. It was an RBI single. I liked what Earl Weaver said, though, in this book, The Code, as far as how to handle not running up the score. He said, well, if we were ahead by a big margin late, I would just take a lot of players out of the game.
Yeah.
Play the bench guys. Makes sense.
Do you ask those bench guys to not give their all when they get in the game?
No, I think you tell them to play hard, and the other manager has to understand, hey, we're giving these guys playing time, and we're not going to send them out there with restraints on them, which may lead to running up the score. So be it. Ground ball up the middle. Elmore sliding. Can't stop it from going through into center field. It's an RBI single. And he's still down. He hit hard on his knee. Took up some turf. So it's 11-0.
That's the second play rather similar for Jake Elmore in this ball game. Ground ball's not hit all that sharply, but back up the middle and just in that just out of reach or just in reach kind of mode. Unable to get an out of it. It's turned into one of those games, but it's gone beyond that. It's turned into one of those stretches now for the club where things are not going right.
He hit hard on that left knee, indicating to the training staff he's all right as they were looking in from the bench. But Rex Jones is going out anyway. And sometimes a player will do the macho thing, but he'll really be hurting.
And clearly that's not your full out dive. That's kind of sliding into it on the knee. Don't know, haven't watched enough of Jake Elmore as an infielder to know if he has the full out dive play. But
you know, it appeared, Ash, that he was trying to slide on the left knee and then it didn't slide. It just kind of stuck. So just wondering if there might have been a pull on that hip as well when he came to that grinding halt. But it's attention to his right eye right now, not the knee or the hip or anything else. He may have gotten some dirt in that eye.
It's amazing about this game. You get a guy that you insert in a given position, the guy that might be a little short of the tools that position requires, and it feels like over whether it's one ball game or a stretch of time, like that player will get challenged, unlike the guy that does have all the given tools for that spot.
It can happen on a given occasion. Nick Franklin has a grand slam and a single and 4 trips to the plate. Strike one to Franklin. Mariners now have hit 120 home runs this year. They're third in the American League. A stretch of homering in 23 consecutive games, the 6th longest in history. That looked like a first inning Jordan Lyles pitch there. That was right near the notch of the knee, but it was called a ball, and it's 1-1.
You get this type of umpiring in a ball game, and it can really mess things up with the starting pitchers. We talked about that, but it can also extend the length of the ball game, and you've got one of those games going on right now where you've got a chance of playing toward 4 hours again.
1-2 to Franklin. Andy Chavez is on deck. Eric Wedge has taken one of his starting players out of the game. Left fielder Raul Ibanez. That makes sense. It's 2-2. The longest streak of games with home runs consecutively since 1916, the Texas Rangers, 27 straight games with a homer in 2002.
Well, Brownie, on this foul ball, you bring up the code, and I've got a lot of issues with the code, and I won't get into all of them. But my largest issue is you can take a game like today where Seattle leads 11-0, and now the code is in effect, and guys are not supposed to run. So Seattle can put their first baseman all the way back. The Astros can have a runner at first, and they are not supposed to run in the view of the code. Not supposed to try to claw their way back into the ball game. And it makes no sense to me whatsoever.
I have to agree with you on that. Ground ball to first is a fair ball, and Carter will take it to first base. In the 7th inning, 1-run scores on 2 hits. 2 men are left on, and it's 11-0 Seattle.
Oklahoma, and New Mexico viewers, listen up. Comcast Sportsnet covers the entire 5-state region, and we want your story ideas. Email us your ideas at regionalroundup@comcastsportsnet.com. Brownie, back up to you.
$11-0 ball game, and the Mariners are leading the Astros here at 7th inning stretch time. We're throwing out some peanuts. Ash, your accuracy is unparalleled today. And Orbit's been all over the place again today. Well, it's 11-0, but people are still having a good time. And you have sampled a chili dog today. What's your report on that?
Chili dog is all it's billed to be if the billing is good.
Baseball tradition, the 7th inning stretch. Well, the rumor is that got started when William Howard Taft was president. And he went to a game in Ohio, his home state, in Cincinnati, and he was about a 300-pound man. And about the 7th inning, he got up to take a stretch, and of course everybody else in the place had to stretch with him. He was the president of the United States, so that's how the 7th inning stretch got started.
300 pounds before or after his training regimen? See, that's always the question. Is he just a big boned man, or is he a little out of shape?
Yeah, exactly. Well, as they stretch, the warm-up occurs for Hector Noesi. While you were thinking about a chili dog, Hector Noesi was getting serious, Ash.
Well, I am thinking no more. I worked my way through one, and you led me well today. By the way, Hector Noesi, one of those arms in this bullpen, and can be a pretty good arm, but he's given up a lot of hits. You can see 27 in 19 innings, and the opposition hitting .320 against him. So it's all adding up to the Astros maybe getting some good swings here late in the game.
He's from the Dominican Republic, 26 years old, facing Justin Maxwell, who's 0 for 2. And the arm is on display, 95 miles per hour, but it's just off the plate for ball 1.
It's so hard to explain why there are certain pitchers who can bring the mid-90s type stuff, and yet they just keep giving up the hits.
It's 1-1 to J-Max.
Hector Ambriz has been one of those guys, Brownie.
Yeah. Maxwell with a ground out, then reaching on an error, facing a pitcher who signed with the Yankees, was traded along with Jesus Montero in the Michael Pineda deal a year ago in January. And you were mentioning Pineda the other night as somebody who could really help the Yankees, or maybe it was earlier today.
Yep, today.
The games all run together, Ash.
They're starting to do that a little bit right now, but yeah, he's when he came up with Seattle, he was quite special alongside Felix Hernandez.
Well, Noesi in his first year with Seattle last year was 2-12 with a 5.82 ERA. So that got him a demotion to the bullpen. He gets a strikeout. That's number 8 of the day for the Mariners pitching staff.
Just a little tiny slider, maybe a cutter, inducing that strikeout.
We're going to update the ERA of King Felix with this game today. Came in at 2.53, which was the best in the American League when the day started. Brandon Barnes takes strike 1. Brandon popped to the pitcher and he struck out. The current ERA of King Felix is 2.44. He threw 93 pitches, 62 for strikes. Oh, wait a minute. That's not updated.
You're a little shy of the mark there, I think.
Yeah, it's 2.43. One hopper to second. That's out number 2.
99 pitches worth of Felix today. 65 strikes. Yeah, that doesn't harm him at all, having 6 more shutout innings to add on to things.
That gets him to 144 2/3 innings this year. He's the American League leader in innings pitched. And Hisashi Iwakuma, who pitched and won last night is second in innings pitched in the American League. Elmore looks at strike one. Elmore's 1 for 2.
Iwakuma had a recent tough game, I think a couple of starts prior to last night's, and he had actually been just a notch in front of Felix Hernandez in terms of that ERA in the league. So they've got a couple of real aces at the top of the rotation.
That's a 1-2 punch. If Hernandez wins this game, he goes to 11-4, and Iwakuma and Hernandez combined go to 20-8. Fastball makes it 1-2, and that one popped the mitt.
That fastball was alive right there. I think it was breathing on the way to the plate.
They could hear that mid pop all the way over at Brays Bayou. Out into right center field. That looks like a gapper, and Elmore's on his way to second base. Saunders picks it up. It's a double in the first extra base hit for the Astros today. Elmore's 2 for 3. That's his third double.
You know, it takes us back to what we were saying about Jake Elmore with the bat. I mean, he looks like a guy who could hold his own quite well. And I'm talking about playing on the big league level. Nice short, quick stroke through the baseball. The question is, where defensively does he best fit?
2-out double puts him in scoring position for Altuve. Jose is 1 for 3. There's strike one. Astros AAA Oklahoma City Redhawks team beat Chris Carpenter, who was rehabbing for the Cardinals AAA club Memphis last night. Carpenter had some crooked numbers. Apparently did not throw the ball very well. So liner over shortstop into left center field. That'll break a shutout bid. RBI single for Altuve. His 30th run batted in. It's 11-1.
Now this is very nice to see from some great fans. This is not the mock cheer of a club that's getting pounded here on a given afternoon. That's genuine support behind the ball club, and really, again, nice to see.
Well hit ball. Altuve 2 for 4 in this game. Returning to the leadoff spot. Brett Wallace is 1 for 3. That's 6 hits for the Astros. The Mariners have 11. Wallace pulls one, but it's caught by Smoke. And it's 1 run, 2 hits, and 1 man left. Tough luck for Wallace. 11-1 Mariners.
Felder brings the heat with special guests and in-depth analysis on Sports Talk Live. That's every night at 5 p.m. only on Comcast Sportsnet.
Families enjoying this Sunday afternoon game. A lot of folks from Houston Methodist Hospital System here as a group, and we heard from their CEO earlier with Bart. And just a nice day for them to bring the entire family out before going back to work on Monday. Andy Chavez leads it off in the 8th inning. He looks at ball one. He was inserted in this game in right field, and he is batting for the first time at 279 with 2 homers, 13 runs batted in for Andy Chavez. Longtime major league player. He's had 222 at bats for the Mariners this year. It's 2 balls, no strikes as he makes his first appearance in this series. Speedy player, 35 years old. Fouls that one back, and it's 2-2. He's from Valencia, Venezuela. He was with Baltimore last year. He's been with the Mets, Washington, the Phillies, Texas Rangers. Looping foul ball goes toward the seats, and that's out of play for Mark Krause. 2-2 to Andy Chavez. This is inning number 3 for Lucas Harrell. He's actually pitched 3 innings so far. This is the start of inning number 4. Chavez has had some good games against the Astros this year. 2 balls, 2 strikes. He's had 3 2-hit games. He's had 50 starts, hitting in 42 of those. Altuve backhanding, throws to first. Good play.
Well, Altuve drives in the run with a base hit and now comes up with this gem defensively.
Kendrys Morales has a pair of hits, an RBI, 2 runs scored. He gets ball 1 from Harrell. Diamondbacks lead the Giants 1-0 in the bottom of the 3rd inning at San Francisco. Madison Bumgarner for San Francisco, Randall Delgado for Arizona. That's been an interesting series, and the Giants are really trying to make a push to get back in it in the NL West. They're 4.5 out. They've won the first 2 of that 3-game series. 2 balls and a strike. Matt Cain still struggling to put wins together for the Giants this year. He's pitched in that series. It's 3 balls, 1 strike now. Giants are 45-51. The Dodgers have made the big move. They've won 8 of their last 10. That pulls them 1/2 game behind Arizona. And there's the walk to Morales. That's walk number 3.
If I were trying to play Mr. Baseball guy predicting that division, I think the Dodgers may be the team to beat right now.
They really might. It's been a crazy year for them, but it just seems that the cream is rising to the top. They have so many talented players. Brendan Ryan's the batter. There's strike 1 to him. He's up for the first time. Ryan had been the everyday shortstop, but appears to have lost his job. He's at 195, and that's why he's lost his job. Has 3 homers, 17 runs batted in. And he's acknowledged as the best fielding shortstop in the American League, but with what Miller is providing right now at short, it seems that the Mariners have turned the page, at least for this portion of the season.
Especially when a team starts winning, when they bring in the younger players. It just changes the entire attitude of the club.
Harrell misses with that one. Yeah, that's a good point. And the Mariners in their notes have a breakdown on what their record is when their rookies are starting. They're 10-3 when Miller's been the starting shortstop. They're 14-10 with Zunino behind the plate. 9-3 with Ackley starting in center. 21-19 with Franklin at second base. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Ryan came up with the Cardinals. He won the Fielding Bible Award as the top defensive shortstop in 2012 in all of Major League Baseball. Three balls, 2 strikes. Brendan's 31 years old. His ultimate zone rating was #1 last year, Ash.
Well, that's the ultimate as far as I'm concerned. I don't know what heads get together and figure those things out.
Altuve throws to first. Let's see if he got the out call at second. It looked like he stepped over the bag, but he got the out call from Dale Scott.
I think that was a phantom call. I don't know where that came from, because this throw was made before any contact was made with the bag.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do believe the score is coming into play. Yeah, let's see. That might be a little early.
So he got the out call at second, but it was safe at first. Okay.
Yeah.
Part of the speed up measures of the game. Fly ball to left field. That's looping in for a hit in front of Krause. And Justin Smoke is aboard with a single. Yeah, that was rather puzzling. Smoke is 2 for 5 now.
Brendan Ryan, who can't buy a hit, is thinking, why me? Do it with the guy who's hitting 330.
Now runners at first and second and 2 outs for Michael Saunders. Saunders has an RBI. He's walked twice and scored twice. Strike to Saunders. What do you hear on the trade front? Anything developing?
Can't say that I've had my ear to the ground that closely. I did speak with a scout today, an unnamed scout, and he's taking peeks at players out here on the field currently.
That's a scoop.
Yeah.
1-1.
I mean, you know it's going on every day, especially this time of year. You'll get that glimpse of a new scout in town, and it's pretty obvious. They're taking a peek. They're trying to find out what might be available.
It's a shot out to Mark Krause's left. It's over Krause's head off the scoreboard wall. Run number 12 comes home, and it's an RBI double for Saunders. Saunders takes his hitting streak to 10 games for the trip back to Seattle. It's his second RBI of the day, number 28 of the year, on his 12th double.
But suffice it to say that some teams around Major League Baseball place a higher value on maybe some players that folks in a given city, Houston for example, may not place that much value on.
Right.
They see these guys as guys that might be able to step in and help their clubs.
A lot of contending clubs are looking for kind of spare parts, aren't they? They're not the big blockbuster deal.
I think that's true. I don't know that any club out there right now is looking to land an ace to the staff. I think they're trying to land a 4 and 5 type starter.
Lucas Harrell's thrown 84 pitches. 49 of them strikes. That's all that's going to be asked of him today. And he's gone 3 2/3 innings in relief of Jordan Lyles. Wesley Wright's coming in. It's 12-1 Mariners. Back in a moment. Astros. He's veteran left-hander Wesley Wright. Coming in with runners at second and third and 2 outs here in the 8th inning. Faced Dustin Ackley. Wesley Wright for the season is 0-3. His ERA is 4.24.
Been improving things a bit of late against the left-hand hitters, though they are still hitting .292 against him. And it was the on-base percentage overall by the lefties against Wesley Wright that a couple of weeks ago was rather alarming.
Wright faces Ackley. 13 hits for the Mariners, 6 for the Astros. Wright delivers. There's strike one. West pitched in the Friday night game. The 10-7 Seattle win. He went 1 1/3 innings in relief of Bud Norris, allowing 1 hit, no runs. He shoots a strike in, and it's 0-2 to Ackley. The Athletics are leading the Angels 4-0 in the bottom of the 5th in Anaheim. Behind Bartolo Colon. He's given up 1 hit in 4 innings. His ERA is 2.62. The Astros won't have to face him in the upcoming series. It's 1-2. Jerome Williams is pitching for the Angels today. Eric Sogard hit his 2nd home run of the year. Chad Lowry's hitting .293 for Oakland right now. Chop foul.
How many teams do you think will institute the for spring training their pitchers come into camp Bartolo Colon in shape style next year?
Well, I think Hostess Twinkies is sponsoring a player next year. So.
It's just amazing where you can get a guy that size, and when you're in shape to pitch, that's all that's really required.
I think Hostess Twinkies should just sponsor him.
They're back now, right?
I think they are back. 2 balls, 2 strikes.
Twinkies and Bartolo both back.
It worked for Mickey Lolich.
Any coincidence it comes at the same time? I don't think so.
Hit the dirt, and it's 3-2. It's just amazing. That guy throws what, about 65% fastballs, about what, 91 or 92. Yep. Nobody can hit him.
Just runs it up there, no question about what he's going to bring. See if you can hit it. Guys are not doing so well.
That's fun. That's fun. He takes the mystery out of it. Foul back. Still 3 balls, 2 strikes to Ackley. Well, the Astros are in a tough slide. They've lost 15 of 19. 3-11 in the month of July, looking for a turnaround and hoping it can come tomorrow night against the Oakland A's team right in the thick of things in the AL West. Oakland 2 games in front of Texas right now. Texas will play tonight. Oakland's 56-41 and has been leading this division quite a bit of the time this year.
I played with a guy early in my career, and a real blessing to play with this guy, Gaylord Perry. Big man. And he wasn't in the same kind of shape that other guys came in, you know, trying to show off and everything, but he was ready to pitch 9 innings.
Yes, he was. Maxwell in right. Puts it away. And it's 1 run scoring on 2 hits, 2 men left. We go to the bottom of the 8th inning, 12-1 Mariners.
Minute Maid Park, 12-1 Mariners as we head to the bottom of the 8th. Time now for our AT&T tweet of the game, and it comes from Jason Schwartz, who covers minor league baseball, and he is just amazed by the Lancaster Jethawks. His tweet says Jethawks lead all of MILB in runs, walks, on-base percentage, slugging, and OPS. And as you see there, the number 2 team in runs scored is more than 130 back of them. Here are the Jethawks numbers, and they are eye-popping. 695 runs, 488 walks. The on-base percentage is 387, 472 slugging, 859 OPS. And they've got some unbelievable young players down there. In fact, if you look at the California League statistics, the individual batting statistics, look at the top 5 hitters in that league. 3 of the top 4 are Jethawks, including the number 1 player, MP Kokonos, who is a Houston product, Memorial High School, I believe. That young man is having a great year, hitting .337 right now. So the Jethawks just one more piece of this Astros organization who's got some exciting things going on, guys.
And Morgan Ensberg's been talking about that, how much talent he's had to work with there as one of the coaches. So as we look at the left-hander is coming in, Lucas Litke. He's a Texas-born lefty, 0-1 with a 6.08 ERA. We're looking at somebody who has pitched against the Astros earlier this year in Seattle on the 9th of April. Lucas, born in Brenham, lives in Industry. Ground ball to second base. Franklin takes it over to first. That's out number 1. We've had some changes on the infield for the Mariners. Brendan Ryan comes in to play shortstop after pinch hitting. And Miller has moved over to third base.
Well, I wonder if Morgan Ensberg is short selling the 10 guys he guarantees will make the major leagues off that squad.
He might be short selling. We'll look at some numbers from some of those guys in a minute as Chris Carter bats. Carter has been hit by a pitch and he's walked. He's 0 for 1. Lucas Litke was drafted by Milwaukee in 08. Taken the Rule 5 draft by Seattle prior to last year, and he made 63 appearances for the Mariners last season. He went to San Jacinto Junior College and Rice University after Belleville High School. Strike to Carter, makes it 0-2 to Chris. Now Kokonos, and Art was talking about MP Kokonos, has staggering offensive numbers there. And he's a catcher. Played some outfield as well. And some first base. He's caught 14 games, so it sounds as if he's extremely versatile. 337, 10 homers, and 961 OPS. Matt Duffy has 15 homers. He's scored 65 runs. And he's driven in 69, and Delano DeShields has 34 steals, and he scored 60 with a .291 average. Carter's down on strikes.
Kokonos played some first base yesterday, so like you say, versatile, and if you've got a big enough bat that you can bring to the big leagues, they'll find some spot for you.
Well, and that would be the type catcher that Tampa Bay loves to bring up, right? The guy who can catch and then play other positions as well as a good offensive player.
Joe Madden wants guys who can play all over. Now, sure, he'll take the guy that can play in one spot and play it very well and swing the bat. But you bet, if you've got some versatility, Tampa Bay would love to have you around.
Carlos Corcoran bats right-handed this time, looking at ball 1. He's 1 for 3.
Not sure why it works for them, but it has worked.
It's crazy. Just their culture. But it's not that easy to find guys who can catch and play other positions and hit well. Corp puts it in the air, and the left fielder goes over toward the line. It's a foul ball.
Well, I think most players, and you would attest to this through the years, will tell you they want to be able to come to the ballpark, know that their name is in the lineup, know roughly where they're going to be in the lineup and what position they're going to play. But when you're playing for Joe Madden, I'm not so sure that that any of those three really work out for a lot of the guys.
Got to get on Twitter early in the morning and see if your name's in the lineup. Sometimes it's leaked out early before you get to the ballpark.
You talked about Kelly Johnson with a home run today against Toronto, but Kelly Johnson's a guy that I was around the last couple of years. I asked him if Joe Madden tells guys before they get to camp with them to bring extra gloves. He said, no, it's just understood. Bring your leather.
1-2 to Carlos Corcoran.
They just all of a sudden will say to you on one day, take some fly balls in left field today during batting practice. You're playing in left field today.
Ooh.
You know, and that's just kind of the way it goes.
It's a shocker. Be prepared. Not everybody can play left field, Ash.
I can assure you that.
I think Carlos hit that ball twice. Still only one. Well, not any additional strikes. He had a 1-2 count. Foul ball. He hit it, and then it bounced up, and he hit it again.
Not going to go with that 1-3 count, huh?
No, that 1-3 doesn't work too well. Although at this time of the day, it might be a good suggestion. Yeah. Strike 3. The 8th inning is quick for Lucas Litke, and we move to the 9th inning, 12-1 Seattle. Astros will kick off their 4th series of the season tomorrow night against Josh Donaldson, Jed Lowry, and the Oakland Athletics. Astros pregame live kicks things off at 6:30 p.m. only on Comcast Sportsnet.
Let's take a look at tomorrow's pitching matchup, brought to you by Chevron. Care for your car. Even if we are a bit tardy, it still will be Tommy Milone going against Dallas Keuchel. Milone 8-8 and a 4.24 ERA for the Oakland A's. Dallas Keuchel 4-5, 4.62. So it's a battle of left-handers. You can see that batting average against on Dallas Keuchel. He would love to whittle away on that one. 295 is the figure.
You're not tardy, but those guys are hoping the hitters are tardy on their fastballs tomorrow. The Astros are 0-9 against Oakland this year.
I was sprinting down the hall, too.
Yes,
it's
you
the best
were.
I had.
Wesley Wright versus Henry Blanco. Ground ball to Jake Elmore. Extra time with Blanco running, 1 out. They call him Hank White still.
Henry Blanco, Hank White, I would imagine.
Now it's Miller. Miller has 2 run-producing singles. He's 2 for 4 with a walk. Wow. That's a serious broken bat. Strike 1 on Miller. It's got to sound real good to Wesley Wright. What?
He was going to stay up there with that. Yeah, right.
That's some fun.
Yeah, that's kind of cute.
Check this out.
You know, not many rookies would have the wherewithal to go ahead and do this. Maybe having fun with the game.
True.
Yeah, let's go ahead and stand in with this thing. Yeah, that was very good. That was my play of the game.
That's how desperate we are. No balls, 2 strikes. Orioles Rangers tonight. Tillman versus Perez. Tillman has won 11. That's strike 3, Mr. Miller.
So who do you like in the American League West right now, if you had to pick?
I still think Texas will do something to improve its pitching and win the division. How about you?
On paper, I think Texas is much better than Oakland, but on the field the last couple of years, the Oakland A's find a way.
Yeah, and there they are, 2 games in front. And headed into Houston. Out of play for Franklin. Franklin has a grand slam and a single. Yeah, that's going to be a very intriguing race to follow.
We've kind of made some comments about manager of the year. Bob Melvin of the Oakland A's again deserves so much credit.
He is tremendous. No balls, 2 strikes. Buenos Cespedes is not hitting for much of an average this year at all. Yeah, Bob really has to piece things together from a lineup standpoint, doesn't he? Although Josh Donaldson is having a very solid year.
He's been the one guy, and you know, he's kind of an unknown commodity, but he's been the one guy that has offensively led that club.
And then Bob gets into the matchup game. Of course, Cespedes is going to be in the lineup every day, but Coco Crisp is not a real offensive juggernaut.
Unless you're talking about early in the 2013 season against Houston.
Well, that's true.
Oh, he just ripped it up.
That's a good point. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Cubs and Rockies are in the bottom of the 4th inning. It's 2-0 Colorado. Cubs might be parting with some more players. They've already traded Scott Feldman to Baltimore. Matt Garza could be next. The Garza watch has been watched closely. That's a strikeout. It's a 1-2-3 9th inning. We go to the bottom of the 9th. 12-1 Seattle. On Comcast Sportsnet is brought to you by Southwest Airlines. Find our fares online only at southwest.com. And by Progressive. Visit progressive.com today. Seattle needs 3 more outs to wrap up a 3-game series sweep and make it a 6-game winning streak. Mariners lead at 12-1. Going with pitcher number 4 of the day, another left-hander, Bobby Laframboise. Lucas Litke out of 1-2-3-8 with 2 punch-outs. Laframboise with no decisions has an ERA of 7.71. He made his major league debut against the Astros in Seattle April 10th and worked a hitless inning with 2 strikeouts.
Done a little bouncing up and down. You can see that ERA not where he'd like it, but not enough innings to put an ERA in its proper place. But you can see that left-handers have absolutely no chance against this guy.
0. J.D. Martinez will be pinch hitting for Mark Krause to lead off the bottom of the 9th inning. Barnes was 0 for 3 with 2 punch-outs. Martinez comes up with a .251 batting average. JD with 7 homers, 35 runs batted in. Has had 259 at-bats. And he's 1 for 5 with an RBI as a pinch hitter. Justin Maxwell is on deck. Brandon Barnes due up third. Ball 1. Framboise was just recalled from AAA Tacoma July 12th. This is his second stint with Seattle. The first one when he made his debut against the Astros only a week long in April. He was 4-0 with the Tacoma Rainiers. 1 ball, 1 strike.
That's a good name for a club. I like that. The Rainiers.
Yeah. Remember Prince Rainier?
I never met him, but
you have met Prince Fielder.
Oh, I've stood near. Is that good enough?
Well, that's royalty. That's as close as we're going to get to royalty, pal.
Love some of the minor league clubs' names, though. The Lansing Lugnuts.
Oh, that's a good one.
There's too many to try to run through a few.
About the Toledo Mud Hens.
That's been a long-standing great one. Jamie Farr of the old MASH TV show made that one pretty popular. Corporal Klinger.
And a shot into right field. JD Martinez with a pinch single here in the bottom of the 9th inning. As we promised earlier in the game, it's Miller time, brought to you by Miller Lite, and we show you Grand Slam number 5 by a Mariner here in 2013. They lead the majors, and it came from Nick Franklin. It was his first major league slam.
And it was a Jordan Lyles at that point who I think was just buffeted by the winds a bit too much on this afternoon. Couldn't find the strike zone early, very close, and then suddenly lost it entirely. Had to come through the heart of the plate and got pummeled.
Justin Maxwell is 0 for 3. Reached on an error. Ball 1. Do you ever have a Corporal Klinger type guy in your unit? You were in the military, Ash?
I don't ever recall having that guy in the unit. I was a reservist back in the old Vietnam days, and I was trying to clean up my act all the time so I never got punished even further.
A looping hit goes out to center field, and that's a single for J-Max, getting Martinez into second base. First and second, nobody out.
I'll bet you were officer material, weren't you?
No. Well, material in the sense that you made it through basic training and you went to college. So
yeah,
there was that invitation offered, yes. We didn't have too many Corporal Klinger types.
Too many.
Stay tuned for Astros Postgame Live. It's presented by MD Anderson. And Marius and EY are cooking up something special for today. They were cooking up pepperoni pizza when we last heard from them.
I heard that. That was disgusting.
Yeah. You, of course, would never condescend.
We would not stoop so low here in this booth.
Any culinary delight like that. There's ball 1 to Brandon Barnes. He's 0 for 3.
Throw some nearly putrefied chili and some old stale cheese on it and give me a hot dog. I'm ready to go for that, apparently.
Oh, you'll go for it, all right. 1 ball, 1 strike.
Maybe not the best of ideas to wait until mid-long game and decide now's the time for a chili dog, but
it's only a snack.
That's the way I played it today.
Dinner could be coming late. Jake Elmore is on deck. 13 hits for the Mariners, 8 for the Astros, each club with 1 error. Framboise, one of 4 lefty relievers for Eric Wedge. 2 balls and a strike. When's the last time you saw a big league club with 4 lefties in the bullpen?
Imagine there are a lot who would love to have 4, but not many will come up with 4. A lot of times you're trying to put 1 lefty, salvage 1 lefty, maybe 2 at best in your pen.
That's a looping fly ball hit into right center field. And Martinez is coming to the plate. RBI single for Brandon Barnes. What a big weekend he's had. He's had 7 hits in this 3-game series. That's his 22nd run batted in. Five Friday.
Easy to root for, as good as he is defensively. Turn him into a complete ball player.
Well, more contact certainly would help. 3 straight singles, and now it's Elmore batting. Elmore has a single and a double in this game. That's 9 hits for the Astros. Ryan is moving in and playing about halfway depth here for possible double play. Way outside, ball 1 to Elmore.
Speaking of easy to root for guys, Justin Maxwell, the runner at third base with a base hit in the inning. Just another guy that, for me, he's just so loaded with tools. Tools don't always play the game, but he is one of those guys that, for me, just screams stardom if he could just put it together.
2 balls, no strikes. That's what this year's all about, finding who can put it together. Elmore looks at ball 3, and it's 3-0 to Jake.
And that's one of the dangers, though, and I'm not talking about Justin or anybody specifically here. When you start trying to come up with players based on tools, because tools, as impressive as they may be in a tryout camp, don't always play this game well.
(3-1). Jake Buchanan was the winner for Oklahoma City last night over Memphis with 6 shutout innings. That was an 8-1 Red Hawk win. Red Hawks are 53-47 now. In for a strike. That makes it a full count now on Elmore.
Taken all the way, and part of what Elmore has done through the years in the minor leagues to put himself in a position to be a major league player, because intelligent hitter, swings the bat well.
In the air, and the first sack of smoke comes over for a look. Out of play. Let's check in on Jake Buchanan, who was promoted from AA Corpus Christi, and he's had 4 starts for AAA Oklahoma City. He's 2-2 there with a 3.75 ERA. George Springer, meanwhile, also got that same promotion, and he's hit .379 as a AAA player with 8 homers and a .1293 OPS.
Those are nice numbers, by the way, for Buchanan when you're talking PCL and a guy that doesn't walk people.
Still 3-2 as the battle continues for Elmore. They are nice numbers. Corpus Christi battered Frisco 9-1 in Corpus last night. Eric Castro had 3 hits and drove in 3 runs for the Hooks. Hooks are now 57-41. There's a walk to Elmore. Now the bases are loaded. And the right-hander warming up. Danny Farquhar. We'll see how long the skipper Eric Wedge will stay with this lefty. Carl Willis, the pitching coach, goes out. 4 straight have reached against him.
Yeah, the Hooks, as you just mentioned, another one of those outstanding names for a minor league club. This is maybe one of those conversations. I know you've dreamed of pitching in the major leagues for a long, long time. If you want to be able to do this for some period of time, you got to get some outs.
Nick Tropiano had a good start for Corpus last night. 7 innings, 1 run. He's 4-7 for the Hooks. Max Stassi hit his 9th homer. We're going to have to check how many at-bats he has, because he got a very late start to the season. Farquhar continues to warm up. I think his production for the number of at-bats he's had should be really good. He DH'd in the game last night, but he's a catcher. Altuve has a pair of hits in 4 trips. He's driven in a run. 178 at-bats for Max Stassi at Corpus Christi. He's piling up that playing time that he needs for development. And Dominguez is on deck, ready to pinch hit for Brett Wallace. It's 2-0, and Alphon Boyce very close to being lifted from this game.
Just learned that Stassi has a .483 slugging percentage. Guy who had a slow start to the season offensively.
Yeah, he had an injury in spring training, but highly regarded. Astros got him in a trade with Oakland. That Chris Carter deal. Now it's 3-0. And the brain trust of the Mariners probably will not want to see a whole lot more of this. 3 balls, 1 strike to Altuve. Lucas Harrell in 3 2/3 innings allowed 5 hits, 2 runs. He walked 3 and did not have a strikeout. In the air, Smoke watches that one go back into seats. 3-2 to Altuve. Another 3-2 pitch will be coming soon. The Seattle bullpen has struggled with a 10-17 record and a 4.45 ERA this year. Cardinals 3, Padres 2. That's a final from St. Louis. Adam Wainwright's a 13-game winner. Altuve swung the ball 4. 1 out.
Jose's not a hitter who wants to leave it in the umpire's hands for that final call. That fastball started moving outside edge, just off edge, and on this one way off edge. And Jose's thinking, what on earth am I doing?
Front Boyce gave up the hits to the first 3, and then he walked a man. Now a strikeout, but really could have been ball 4 right there. So that's all that's going to be asked of LaFront Boyce in this game. And the right-hander will be coming in, Farquhar. 12-2 Mariners. Back in a moment.
Astros threatening here in the 9th inning. Stay tuned for postgame live presented by MD Anderson, making cancer history.
Right-hander Danny Farquhar is warming up. He has an ERA of 7.61 coming in for the 18th time for the Mariners. He pitched in the Friday night game.
So what is the pitch possessed by the right-hander Farquhar that is dominating left-hand hitters to that 205 mark? Usually some kind of change-up splitter. We'll see as he gets it tuned up here. Right-hand hitters have hit quite well against him.
He struggled in Friday night's game, giving up 2 hits and 2 runs in 1/3 of an inning. Matt Dominguez is the pinch hitter for Brett Wallace. Wallace was 1 for 4. Dominguez is hitting .232. He has 47 runs batted in. Looks at the breaking ball for ball 1.
Danny Farquhar is probably thinking after that pitch was delivered and no strike called, what am I doing here? Got no chance if I can't get that called a strike.
Toward the right field line, Andy Chavez comes over for it into foul ground. He makes that catch. Here's Maxwell tagging, coming to the plate, and the throw safe at home. Boy, it looked like they would get him when the ball arrived at Henry Blanco's mitt, but Maxwell made it, and Dominguez winds up with a foul sacrifice fly, and it's 12-3.
What a way to end the ball game that would have been, and thank goodness for long arms for Justin Maxwell. Wow. See, does he actually get it? Yes, he does. Terrific diving effort by Maxwell to score the run.
Good throw by Chavez. Oh, is that interesting.
Very close. But again, that ability to stretch with the long arm and get it on the plate early, scoring the run. Good call.
Jason Castro has runners at first and third. He bounces it foul for strike 1. Dominguez takes over the club RBI lead. He had been in a tie with Chris Carter. That's his 48th run batted in. It appeared to be very risky for Maxwell, but it's a 12-3 ball game. So how risky would it have been to make that final out at home plate in a 12-3 ball game? Easily moving to second base without a play. There's Jake Elmore. No attempt to stop him from that. Sure, it should be ruled defensive indifference.
Boy, you think Dave Tremblay isn't happy right now after Maxwell was safe at the plate and not out for the last out of the game?
You know it. Well, just thinking through that situation, why not?
Fair enough.
You know, if you lose, then the game's over, and if you score the run, which they did, still 2 outs, 2 men on, a 9-run deficit. So the odds are, let's face it, infinitesimal that this is going to be a turnaround.
So when you do the math and you get infinitesimal as your answer, go ahead and send him.
Go ahead and send him. Swing and a miss, and now they might reach on a strikeout. Here's the throw, and it gets away. And another run scores, and now 2 runs are going to come home on the play. And Castro was hit by that throw, so now it's 12-5. He reaches on the 2-out strikeout. Barnes and Elmore come home to score on the play.
Now Henry Blanco just doesn't get it done right here. Got to get down and block this pitch. And when it's all said and done, golden opportunity presented to Houston. Glove came way up. Glove comes up. There are chances the ball gets by.
That throw hit Castro on the back of the batting helmet. It's an error on the throw from Blanco, his second error of the year. And now Chris Carter takes ball 1. It's a wild pitch and an error. So the second run scored on an error. The first run scored on a wild pitch. 2-0 to Carter. Bobby LaFramboise, 1/3 of an inning, 3 hits allowed and a walk, 4 runs, and 1 strikeout. 2-0 on Carter with Corcoran on deck. Carter's the 8th Astro to bat here in the 9th inning. Let's say this about this Astros club. It doesn't matter what the score is. They're still bearing down, and they've had a number of games like this when they've scored late, put together some nice innings, and now a walk to Carter.
Yeah, it really does, Brownie, come down to wins and losses when it's all said and done. But in the manager's office, in the general manager's office, sometimes those battle back jobs and the guys that performed as a team tries to battle back impressively within that dugout, I think those guys earn themselves some consideration.
Corcoran singled in the 2nd inning. He's 1 for 4. Broken bat pop-up. Blanco makes the grab. And that ends it. A Seattle sweep of this 3-game series in Houston. A 12-5 victory today, giving King Felix Hernandez win number 11. And the Astros move on to meet Oakland tomorrow night. Final score, Seattle 12, Houston 5.